Chapter 3455. Chuli was excited. A rank 2 spirit beast was incredible. In the 100,000 hills, as long as he didn't encounter a rank 1 spirit beast or a rank 2 spirit beast, he could advance and retreat freely. However, seeing that the spirit-devouring turtle was so powerful and still stayed in the ice pool, he knew the rules of the 100,000 hills. Each spirit beast had its own territory, and it was best not to intrude. He thought for a while. Suddenly, the dragon and the man disappeared and appeared in the Valley of 10 Peaks. The evil dark dragon suddenly roared, showing its dissatisfaction. It really didn't want to return to this sad place. Chuli comforted it and saw the motionless spirit devouring turtle on the grass. The spirit engulfing turtle's head was peeking out, and it was facing the bright moon above the valley. There seemed to be a streak of white light descending from the moon into its mouth, and it endured the white light without moving. Chuli was surprised and signaled the evil dark dragon not to move and not to disturb the spirit-devouring turtle. He pushed the omniscient mirror to the limit and the heavenly star insight technique as well, staring at the spirit-devouring turtle's body. Its tortoise shell seemed to be faintly flickering with brilliance, absorbing the clear radiance that fell on it. Chuli saw the situation inside the spirit-devouring turtle's body clearly. 36 strange meridians flowed with moonlight, as if 36 white light lines connected its body. Chuli immediately imprinted the meridians and the direction of the moonlight flow in his mind. This was the spirit-devouring turtle's channeling route and heart technique. It seemed like it could cultivate on its own, just like humans. This made him overjoyed, and he faintly felt that this might be the origin of the black tortoise power. He had the heavenly star insight technique and could derive this technique. Maybe he could really derive the black tortoise power, and he wouldn't need to disguise himself as a disciple of the Black Tortoise Mountain to sneak in and learn the technique. The spirit-devouring turtle breathed in and out the moonlight, and its body was recovering. Chuli couldn't help but admire it. To be able to use the moonlight to cultivate, this was a unique talent. No wonder it could become a rank 2 spirit beast. When the moon left the valley, the spirit-devouring turtle retracted its head and pretended to be dead. Chuli shook his head and laughed. He landed on its shell and used the dragon taming technique again, torturing it again. The evil dark dragon, who was watching from the side, suddenly let out a roar. The deafening sound reverberated in the valley. Chuli's blood was shaken, and he almost vomited blood. He could not help but be surprised. He did not expect the evil dark dragon to be so powerful. Moreover, this dragon cry contained a strange offensive power that could even affect one's soul, making them feel a sense of fear. This was the power of a dragon's might. It seemed that becoming a true dragon this time had stimulated the inheritance and power in its bloodline, and it had learned this kind of dragon might without a teacher. Once again, Chuli marveled at the spirit beast's unique gifts. There was no need for them to learn it at all. It was directly imprinted in their bloodline. When their power reached a certain level, a new cultivation method would naturally emerge, and they would just have to cultivate accordingly. Unlike him, who had to rack his brains to find the divine art, he couldn't even find it. The spirit-engulfing turtle suddenly poked its head out and glared at the evil dark dragon with its obsidian eyes without any fear. The evil dark dragon also stared at it majestically. One dragon and one turtle faced off, and the surrounding air suddenly froze. Chuli took a step back to see if the evil dark dragon had improved and if it dared to face the spirit-engulfing turtle again. The last time it was bitten, the evil dark dragon was traumatized. Chuli understood that this kind of pain was beyond the limit of pain. Just thinking about it made one shiver and feel numb. The evil dark dragon let out another roar. It gathered its courage and suddenly leaped toward the spirit-engulfing turtle, taking the initiative to attack. The spirit-engulfing turtle poked its head out and bit as fast as lightning. The evil dark dragon turned its body, and the dragon claw hidden under its abdomen swatted over. Bam! The spirit engulfing turtle staggered and instantly retracted its head. Bam, 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 bam. The evil dark dragon waved its dragon claw and kept hitting the turtle shell. The turtle shell kept retreating, and the spirit engulfing turtle didn't dare to show its head. It could only shrink inside the shell and let the evil dark dragon hit its shell. Bam! The spirit engulfing turtle fell into the pool. The evil dark dragon followed closely behind. Suddenly, all the water in the pool started to spin, forming a huge whirlpool. The spirit engulfing turtle was sucked in, and it seemed like it was going to be crushed. Chuli saw the spirit engulfing turtle's shell faintly glow, and the patterns on the shell were clearly visible. At first glance, it seemed like these densely packed, strange patterns were protecting the turtle shell, not letting it get hurt. The evil dark dragon let out another roar, and the pool water spun even faster and with even more force. The spirit engulfing turtle suddenly poked its head out and spat out a white light. Suddenly, the water around it slowed down, and the original whirlpool started to collapse. The evil dark dragon roared angrily, and the whirlpool increased again, spinning again. The white light that the spirit engulfing turtle spat out dissipated, and it could no longer control the pool water. The spirit engulfing turtle spat out the white light again, disrupting the whirlpool, and the evil dark dragon restored it to normal. The spirit engulfing turtle was in the whirlpool, and the patterns on the turtle shell became clearer and larger, as if they were going to leave the turtle shell and float into the air. Chuli smiled. It seemed like the evil dark dragon had reached the level of a rank 2 spirit beast. Bang! The spirit engulfing turtle suddenly leaped out, and it exceeded Chuli's and the evil dark dragon's expectations. As if it could fly, it directly jumped out of the pool and landed on the grass at the side. The evil dark dragon felt like it had been tricked, and with an angry roar, it drilled out of the water and waved its claws at the spirit engulfing turtle again. Chuli shook his head and suddenly appeared behind the spirit engulfing turtle. He ignored the strange resistance and placed his palms on the patterns and started to circulate the dragon taming technique. The dragon taming technique showed its strangeness, and it directly passed through the patterns, landed on the turtle shell, and then entered the spirit engulfing turtle's body. The dragon taming technique started to wreak havoc in its body, and the spirit engulfing turtle's originally hesitant movements were instantly hit by the dragon claw. The dragon claw was extremely powerful, and it was as sharp as a sword. After the spirit engulfing turtle's head was hit, it wasn't injured, and it quickly retracted into the turtle shell, returning to its original appearance. Chuli waved his hand, indicating that the evil dark dragon didn't need to rush. He circulated the power of the dragon taming technique and continuously tortured the spirit engulfing turtle. After 2 hours, it suddenly showed a hint of wanting to beg Chuli for mercy. Chuli sent it a cold smile and continued to torture it with the dragon taming technique. The spirit engulfing turtle's heart begged for mercy, saying that it wanted to be like the evil dark dragon, listen to his orders, and be his mount. Chuli shook his head and sneered, but he didn't believe it. The evil dark dragon was willing to be his mount, not only because of the dragon taming technique, but also because he saved it in the past. It was grateful, so it was willing to let him circulate the dragon taming technique to strengthen it. The spirit engulfing turtle was different. It had an extremely long lifespan, and it was cunning. As a rank 2 spirit beast, how could it submit to a human? Humans were just ants in its eyes, and it didn't even look at them properly. The spirit engulfing turtle continued to beg for mercy and promised to be a mount. Chuli finally agreed and retracted the dragon taming technique. He wanted to see what other tricks the spirit engulfing turtle could play. The spirit engulfing turtle's mind was extremely deep, and although the omniscient mirror could see through its body, it couldn't see through its mind. He could only communicate with it through the combination of the dragon taming technique and the omniscient mirror. Chuli didn't dare to trust such an old thing, and he had been on guard. But if it could really submit, that would be a good thing, and he would be able to carefully study the black tortoise power. Chapter 3456. To deal with a second-grade spirit beast like the spirit-devouring turtle, there was no other way but to beat it until it was completely convinced. Just thinking about how an ant was going to make a person submit and beg for mercy was enough to tell how difficult it was. If it wasn't for the fact that it couldn't fight back and had no choice but to be obedient, it wouldn't have given in at all and would have taken the opportunity to wreak havoc. It was extremely dangerous for such a spirit beast to wreak havoc. It could even endanger the safety of the people around it. If it suddenly went crazy when Shao-Chi and Shao-Shi came to 100,000 Hills, it would be too late for regrets. Chuli thought about it and rode on the evil dark dragon's back. It could no longer be called the evil dark dragon anymore. It had become a white dragon. Riding on the back of the white dragon and pressing his hand on the spirit-devouring tortoise's shell, the dragon, tortoise, and man suddenly disappeared from the Valley of 10 Extremes and appeared in the ice pool of the 100,000 Mountains. Suddenly, a rich spiritual energy surged. Woo! The white dragon let out a long roar, shaking everything around it. The spirit-devouring turtle dove into the ice pond. Chuli scoffed. As expected, there was something wrong with this old fellow. Previously, it was only an expedient measure, and he had not truly given in. There was a formation set up below that could hide its whereabouts. It usually lay inside the formation, and once a spirit beast entered the ice pool, it would suddenly appear and devour it. The spirit beasts that could be tricked were already dead, so no other spirit beasts dared to approach the ice pond. Only the spirit cranes remained in the sky, and the spirit-devouring turtle could do nothing about it. Back then, Chuli was thrown into this icy pond to be cleansed because in the eyes of the spirit-devouring tortoise, he was like an ant that was not worth mentioning. It was too lazy to move to expel him, which was why he was safe and sound. Chuli often felt a lingering fear. The spirit crane's actions were too risky. If the spirit-devouring turtle had a sudden impulse and really wanted to deal with him, then he would not have been able to escape back then. The white dragon was instantly enraged at the sight of the spirit-devouring turtle running downward. The ice pond opened up again, and the water surged to impede the spirit-devouring turtle's advance. Unfortunately, the spirit-devouring tortoise was also proficient in water. Even though it was swimming against the current, its speed was still extremely fast. Its shell emitted a hazy glow as if it were a turtle of light. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the bottom of the pond. The white dragon roared angrily, causing the ice pond to boil. Chuli shook his head and patted the white dragon, signaling it to calm down. A moment later, another ball of light rose from the bottom of the pond. It was the spirit-devouring turtle. Its entire body shone brightly. Its forelegs were desperately running, but it stopped in its original spot. Its entire body shone brilliantly, like a bright moon falling into the bottom of a pond. Moreover, it was getting brighter and brighter. The white dragon turned to look at Chuli. Chuli sent his thoughts over. He had already set up a formation at the bottom of the pool and was waiting for the spirit-devouring turtle to jump in. He wanted to see what tricks it would play this time. The white dragon thrashed around excitedly before diving to the bottom of the pond in a flash. It swam around the spirit-devouring turtle and circled around it, as if it were showing off and mocking it. The spirit-devouring turtle could see the white dragon clearly, but it was unable to escape from the formation. Chuli's formation was like a bottomless pit, endlessly devouring the spirit-devouring turtle's spiritual energy. The spirit-devouring turtle tried its best to resist, tried to escape, but it never succeeded. Shaking his head and sighing, Chuli suddenly disappeared. With the white dragon here, the spirit-devouring tortoise would not be able to do anything. As it devoured the spirit-devouring tortoise's spiritual energy, the formation would become stronger and the spirit-devouring tortoise would become weaker. He wanted to go back and ask his master why the evil dark dragon didn't become a golden dragon. Just as he appeared at Goddess Attraction Mountain and was about to ask his master for advice, he saw the situation in his courtyard in his mind. Shao-Chi and Lu Yurong were fighting. Shao-Chi stood quietly on the spot, while Lu Yurong floated like a fairy. Her palms were like white jade, and there seemed to be a clear spring flowing under her skin. Bang, 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 bang. The sounds of explosions were endless. Lu Yurong's palms hit the void, causing a sudden gust of wind. Their white robes fluttered in the wind, making them look like fairies. Xiaoqi's regal sword seemed to be endless. She was like a fish in water when she used it on Goddess Attraction Mountain. The spiritual energy on Goddess Attraction Mountain was beyond imagination, so it was exceptionally easy for the regal sword to absorb spiritual energy from the Outland. It was the same for Lu Yurong. Chuli could see a shadow behind her, with her clothes fluttering. Although he could not see the face, he could feel that it was a fairy standing in the void and staring at Lu Yurong. The fairy was absorbing spiritual energy from the Outland and channeling it into Lu Yurong's body, providing her with an endless supply of energy. Chuli shook his head and sighed. He did not expect the two to cultivate similar techniques. Although one was using the regal sword while the other was the elusive Ninth Heaven fairy, the way they channeled their techniques was similar. It was obvious that they were both Outland's martial arts. In today's world, only Outland's martial arts could stand proudly. It was not without reason. It was obvious from their battle that they could absorb spiritual energy from the Outland, so it was naturally purer and more powerful than the spiritual energy in this world. More importantly, Outland's martial arts were more exquisite compared to Spirit Beast's martial arts. It had an additional medium to absorb spiritual energy. If Chu Li's dragon taming technique did not have the life and death scripture, he would not be a match for the two ladies. Dong Jianxin appeared quietly. Chu Li turned and fist saluted. Senior brother. Dong Jianxin smiled. Why didn't you go back? His smile was filled with schadenfreude. Chu Li said, I was about to ask Master about something. You don't dare to go back, right? Dong Jianxin smiled faintly. What is it? Let me see if I know. After the evil nether dragon transformed into a dragon, how did it turn into a white dragon? Chu Li asked. Dong Jianxin pondered for a moment. It seems that you still don't understand the levels of dragons. Chu Li listened attentively. Dong Jianxin said, White dragon, azure dragon, purple dragon, and gold dragon. The 4 major levels are promoted level by level. It is not born a gold dragon. Master's dragon became an enlightened master together with him. It was blessed by the power of heaven and earth, and thus stepped into the gold dragon level. It was originally just an azure dragon. Chu Li suddenly understood. Dong Jianxin said, the dragon taming technique can improve the dragon's level, and it is very fast. It only took 30 years for Master's white dragon to become an azure dragon. 30 years. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Dong Jianxin said, You think it is slow? You must know that the life of a dragon is very long. It can often live for more than 10,000 years. It is already very fast to advance 1 level in 1,000 years. Master's azure dragon only took 30 years. Think about the power of the dragon taming technique. Chu Li nodded slowly. Now that he said it, it was true. The difference between 30 years and 1,000 years was more than 30 times. Then what is the white dragon considered as a spirit beast? Chu Li asked. Dong Jianxin said, 2nd rank. Only 2nd rank? The white dragon is still very weak. The azure dragon is different. It is only considered 1st rank. The purple dragon and gold dragon are superior rank. Dong Jianxin said. Chu Li smiled and said, Then wouldn't Master be able to ride the gold dragon freely in the 100,000 hills? Master's gold dragon can't enter the 100,000 hills. Dong Jianxin shook his head and said, Master can't enter either. The gold dragon and Master are bound by the heavenly rules. Chu Li was surprised and said, Why can't it enter the 100,000 hills? He really didn't know this rule. The 100,000 hills is the territory of the Outland for spirit beasts. Enlightened masters are not allowed to enter. Dong Jianxin said, This is also the condition for spirit beasts to enter the 100,000 hills. It is also considered an alliance. Chu Li smiled and said, An alliance between the Outland and spirit beasts. Master occasionally talked about this alliance. Only the enlightened masters know about this alliance. Dong Jianxin said, Moreover, enlightened masters will definitely die if they enter the 100,000 hills. There are many superior spirit beasts in the 100,000 hills. As soon as an enlightened master enters, they will sense it and immediately surround and kill it. Forget about superior spirit beasts. Enlightened masters can't even defeat a first-rank spirit beast. Chapter 34:57. Chu nodded slowly. He had a deep understanding of how powerful spirit beasts were. Even though he was now not inferior to an enlightened master, it was still very difficult for him to deal with a second-grade spirit beast. If not for the white dragon's help, he would not have dared to release the spirit-devouring turtle back to the 100,000 mountains. Dong Jinshin sighed and said, "The sky beyond heaven has set a rule that gods are not allowed to step into the 100,000 huge mountains, in order to avoid provoking the spirit beasts and letting them run out of the 100,000 huge mountains again. At that time, I really don't know if the human race will go extinct." Chu Li's expression changed slightly, and he seemed to be deep in thought. Dong Jian said in his heart, "Although I have never been to the Shirwan Mountains, I have heard Shifu mention that the spiritual beasts in the Shirwan Mountains have not degenerated, but we humans have degenerated. We are far inferior to the ancients." Chu Li sighed and said, "It's hard to tell whether this is a blessing or a curse, but it's very difficult for the spirit beast to come out of the 100,000 hills. The spiritual energy is too poor. If they're angered, they'll definitely come out to show off their might and exterminate the humans along the way," Dong Jian thought. Chu Li smiled. "Senior brother, you're thinking too far ahead. As Goddess Attraction Mountain, we naturally have to think a bit further." Dong Jian thought to himself, "We can't help but be on guard." Chu Li said, "Senior brother, don't bother yourself. Let's not talk about the fact that enlightened masters can't defeat a rank 1 spirit beast. Even if they can, they'll only die at the hands of a supreme rank spirit beast. Moreover, there are so few enlightened masters, so how can they provoke the spirit beast? If this goes on, the enlightened masters will only become stronger." "That's true." Dong Jinshin nodded his head. "I think the new generation of gods will be very strong. For example, Sun Mingyue is much stronger than her master, and Tang Su is also much stronger than Tang Haoyan." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Master, if you can't enter the 100,000 hills, won't you be unable to find some spirit herbs? I can only find someone to help me." Dong Jian said in his heart, "Do you need spirit grasses?" Chu Li shook his head. Dong Jian said in his heart, "In short, you have mastered the art of controlling dragon in one breath. You could be said to be the #1 in our Goddess Attraction Mountain, even more powerful than Shifu. I want to cultivate the other 3 heart techniques." Chu Li said, "I have nothing better to do anyway." "I see." Dong Jinshin frowned. Chu Li asked, "Does senior brother have a way to get the other 3 heart techniques?" "There's no other way." Dong Jinshin shook his head and said, "Master can't do anything about it. The Black Tortoise divine art is still around, and its inheritance hasn't been severed, but Black Tortoise Mountain has Empyrean gods. It's impossible for Black Tortoise Mountain's cultivation method to be spread to outsiders, unless you become a disciple of Black Tortoise Mountain." Chu Li could not help but laugh. Dong Jinshin cast a sidelong glance at him and said, "Don't think that Black Tortoise Mountain is weak. Think about it. Among all the major sects in the world today, which one of them actually has a heavenly deity cultivating a spiritual beast heart technique?" Chu Li nodded slowly. Dong Jinshin snorted and said, "Only our Immortal Attraction Mountain and Black Tortoise Mountain can compete. It's just that our Immortal Attraction Mountain has the geographical advantage and is a notch above them. Otherwise, who knows who is stronger and who is weaker?" Chu Li asked, "Is the Black Tortoise Mountain really that strong?" "The Black Tortoise divine art is not inferior to our art of dragon control," Dong Jian said in his heart. "It's almost impossible for you to obtain the Black Tortoise divine exercise. Even if you go and take him as your disciple, he won't agree, so you'd better give up on this idea. If you have the leisure time, help your white dragon take a step further. Master can't wait until you upgrade the white dragon to the azure dragon before he can ascend to heaven." Chu Li sighed. "What about the other 2 heart techniques?" "The inheritance has been broken." Dong Jinshin sighed and said, It's really a pity. Those are heart techniques that are on par with our art of dragon control. No clues at all. Chu Li said, which faction did they belong to in the beginning? The Church of Longevity. Dong Jinshin said, it's a pity that the Church of Longevity has been completely annihilated. The inheritance has also been broken, so it's impossible for these two heart techniques to reappear in the world. You should just give up on this idea. The Church of Longevity. Chu Li said thoughtfully, this sky-killing sword of mine belongs to the Church of Longevity, right? It seems that you know quite a lot. Dong Jinshin looked at him curiously. This was a secret among secrets. It would almost never be spread out. There were very few people who knew about it, and it would only get fewer and fewer. Chu Li smiled and said, I've heard about it occasionally. I only know that the Church of Longevity has been annihilated. The sky-killing sword is the treasure sword of the Church of Longevity. That's right. This sky-killing sword is known as an ominous sword because of the fate of its original owner. Dong Jinshin sighed and said, the owner of the sword was the Church of Longevity's leader, Song Wuji. His martial arts was the best in the world. Almost no one could compare to him. Later, the Church of Longevity provoked the enlightened masters to besiege them. He killed them until they pissed their pants in terror and suffered a crushing defeat. Chu Li nodded. I'm really fascinated by your spirit. This is not a good thing. Dong Jinshin shook his head and smiled bitterly. There's no good ending for going against the world. Didn't you see the arrogant Church of Longevity vanish in a thin air? Chu Li smiled and nodded. This was reasonable, Dong Jinshin said. Later, after Song Wuji killed those enlightened masters, he directly ascended to the sky. He didn't take this sword with him. He felt that it was too fierce, so he left it aside and ascended to the outland. Chu Li said, he ascended to the sky. He ascended to the sky physically. Dong Jinshin sighed and said, for thousands of years, there was only one person who ascended to the sky physically. Chu Li pondered and did not say anything. He knew that when enlightened masters like Song Wanqing ascended to the sky, it was usually their souls that ascended to the sky. Their bodies were left in this world to form the enlightened master's remains. It also had special uses. The surroundings of the enlightened master's remains formed a strange enlightened master's field. Through the comprehension of the enlightened master's field, one could cultivate to become an enlightened master. Although it was only a kind of fake enlightened master, his cultivation level was abnormally deep and far superior to the grandmaster's. Chu Li said, he did it because he killed those enlightened masters. According to Master, it was not so. Dong Jinshin shook his head and said, those enlightened masters were unlucky. Song Wuji had actually cultivated to the state of perfection. Enlightened masters are also divided into realms. After perfection, he was about to break through the void and enter the outland. Coincidentally, these enlightened masters besieged the Church of Longevity and were utterly defeated. They were battered, and only 1 out of 10 survived. Chu Li smiled. It's not that they were unlucky. It was because this church leader Song had extraordinary means. He must have sent someone to instigate them. Just before he ascended to the sky, he took care of these enlightened masters and gave the Church of Longevity a chance. That's true. Dong Jinshin was stunned and came to a sudden realization. When he heard it, he also felt that it was too coincidental. He did not think about this and only thought that it was luck. After Chu Li pointed it out, he immediately realized that it should be so. It turned out to be a conspiracy. However, it was not the enlightened masters who plotted against the Church of Longevity, but Song Wuji who plotted against the enlightened masters. Chu Li said, could it be that church leader Song entered the outland from our goddess attraction mountain? That's right. Dong Jinshin smiled and said, how did you guess? Chu Li shook his head. It was indeed a guess. Did he leave the heaven-killing sword to us? Yes. Dong Jinshin said he felt that the heaven-killing sword was too ferocious and would harm the harmony of heaven. So he abandoned it and left it in our goddess attraction mountain. He placed it under the scorching sun to eliminate its ferocious energy. He also passed down the heaven-killing 3 forms. Chu Li smiled and said, how broad-minded. He probably felt that it did not matter anymore. It was a pity that the heaven-killing 3 forms were lost, so he passed it down. Dong Jianxin smiled and said, "However, only you, junior brother Chu, could successfully cultivate the heaven-killing 3 forms. I did not manage to cultivate it." Chu Li said, "Then how did the Church of Longevity perish in the end?" "Nobody knows." Dong Jianxin shook his head and sighed. "Master doesn't know either." Anyway, when the Grand Master went to look for the Church of Longevity, he was no longer there. The Church of Longevity was empty, and everyone disappeared. Chu Li pondered and said, "If that's the case, the Church of Longevity might still have an inheritance." Chapter 3458. Chu Li looked at Xue Ling. Xue Ling's jade face was solemn, and her eyes were bright. "What's going on?" Chu Li frowned. He was not in a hurry. Xue Ling said, "These 2 people directly came to see you. The protectors said that you were not around, so they fought their way in. Their martial arts are very strange, and their cultivation level is very high. No one is their match." Chu Li smiled. "Looks like someone really dares to break into the High Duke's public house." Ever since he became famous, the mighty name of the enlightened master God-slaying spread all over the world, and no one in the public house dared to provoke him. His reputation had been built up step by step, and his foundation was very stable. He did not rise to the sky in a single bound, which aroused suspicion. The reputation of Chu Li in the north and Du Feng in the south had spread all over the world back then, and the enlightened master God-slaying hand had gone one step further and reached its peak, like the sun in the sky. Li Meng, who was chanting under the glories will tree, came over and looked at Xue curiously. Xue Ling said, "Looks like they came prepared. Their cultivation level is high. Master must not be careless." "All right then, let's go take a look." Chu Li nodded. "Where's the eldest master?" He saw that eldest young master Xiao Taiying and Xiao Baihe were not in the mansion. Xue Ling said, "The eldest master accompanied the madam back to her parents' home. The second master did not come back last night. He must be at the New Moon Brothel." "Second young master is at the New Moon Brothel?" Chu Li was surprised. Xue Ling nodded lightly and said, "Second master likes Sister Hongxiu very much, but Sister Hongxiu has been avoiding second master, so I really don't know about that." Chu Li smiled. "Is Lady Hongxiu hiding from second young master because she feels inferior and feels that her identity is not worthy?" "Yes." Xue Ling nodded and said, "If he really enters the public house, Sister Hongxiu thinks that second young master will become a laughingstock, so she has been hiding from him. However, second young master really likes Sister Hongxiu." Chu Li sighed, shook his head and said, "Fine, let them be. You watch from the side, and don't let Lady Hongxiu do anything stupid." "Yes." Xue Ling nodded. "I've been keeping an eye on him." Li Meng's eyes widened as she listened to the story with keen interest. It turned out that the unattainable, rich, and glorious house of High Dukes also had such matters. Chu Li slowly walked out. Xue Ling hurriedly caught up with him. "Master, they don't come with good intentions. It's better not to make a move." Chu Li shook his head. "You might not get what you want." "Then let me do it," Xue Ling said. Chu Li sized her up and nodded. "I can give it a try." Xue Ling had always been by his side. She had received a lot of pointers from Chu Li and the help of spirit pills. Her cultivation level was much higher than that of an average grandmaster. Chu Li used the omniscient mirror to observe the cultivation level of the 2 people. Xue Ling was on par with one of them. Li Meng followed closely behind. She was a little excited. Someone actually dared to barge into the public house to look for Chu Li. How interesting. Chu Li glanced at her and ignored her, tacitly agreeing to let her follow. The 3 of them arrived at the main hall. The main hall was empty, but there were already 2 cups of tea served. 2 handsome young men were carefully sipping the tea with carefree expressions, as if this was their own home. The 3 of them slowly entered the main hall. The 2 of them put down their teacups and raised their heads. Chu Li nodded at the 2 of them and said, "May I know who the 2 of you are? Why would you use such a drastic method to see me?" "You're Chu Li?" The handsome young man, sitting at the head of the table, was extremely handsome. His eyes shone with a condescending air as he looked at Chu Li calmly. He lowered his head and took another sip of tea. Chu Li nodded. I am Chuli. May I know who you are? I'm Song Jifan. And this is Lu Jun, the handsome young man said slowly. We're here to ask for a favor. Chuli smiled and sat opposite of him. Xueling came and stood behind him. Li Ming originally wanted to sit down, but when she saw the situation, she could only stand behind Chuli. She curiously looked at the two handsome young men, wondering why they had the guts to provoke Chuli. Xueling clapped her hands. Immediately, two maids came in and served them tea. Xueling waved her hand and told herself that it was not necessary. The other maid would only serve tea to Chuli. Chuli took the teacup and took a sip. He slowly exhaled and raised his head to look at Song Jifan with a smile. Song Jifan stared at him with bright eyes, sizing him up with great interest. Chuli smiled. What business do you have, Master Song? Feel free to speak. I've long heard of Chief Chu's name. I heard that you've killed an enlightened master, and you're the master of the Fu dynasty, Tang Haoyan. Now that I've seen you today, I'm impressed that your reputation is well-deserved. Your cultivation level is indeed high, Song Jifan said. Chuli smiled. Master Song, praising me is the same as praising yourself. In terms of cultivation level, Master Song is not below me. In terms of cultivation level, Song Jifan was indeed on par with him. However, he could feel the danger coming from Song Jifan. It was the same feeling he had when he encountered the spirit-devouring turtle. It reminded him to stay away from Song Jifan. The omniscient mirror could not see through his thoughts, but the star insight skill reminded him that this person was very dangerous. Once he went crazy, he would be unstoppable. It was better not to fight him head-on. Song Jifan laughed. Good eyesight. You're indeed Chuli. Chuli said, I don't deserve that. Master Song, if you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. I like to be straightforward and simple. All right, I'll be straightforward. Song Jifan said, Chief Chu, can I take a look at the sword on your waist? Chu Li's eyebrows twitched. He smiled and shook his head. This sword is inauspicious. It's better not to look at it. The Sky Killer sword no longer had its ferocious aura. It was just a treasure sword that could cut through iron like mud. It was sharper than a normal treasure sword. This was already a rare treasure sword. Its sharpness alone was priceless. How could he hand over the Sky Killer sword to a stranger with ill intentions? Song Jifan stared at the treasure sword. He looked at Lu Jun beside him and smiled. If I'm not wrong, this is the Sky Killer sword, right? Chuli smiled. Master Song, you know about the Sky Killer sword? Of course. Song Jifan smiled. Because this was originally my sword. Chuli was startled. He smiled. What do you mean? Chief Chu, do you know who the owner of this Sky Killer sword is? Song Jifan asked. Chuli shook his head. I don't know. He suddenly understood that Song Jifan was probably Song Wuji's descendant. There were very few people in the world who knew about the Sky Killer sword. There were not many who could recognize it. Song Jifan smiled. My ancestor, Song Wuji, was the owner of this Sky Killer sword. Later on, he disappeared and we lost track of this sword. I didn't expect it to appear in Chief Chu's hands. Chu Li's smile widened. What do you mean, Master Song? If Chief Chu can return this sword and fulfill my long-cherished wish, I will be eternally grateful. Song Jifan said. Chuli smiled and shook his head. Master Song, do you know how many owners the Sky Killer sword has had? Song Jifan said. I'd like to hear the details. Chuli said, I don't know either, but if there aren't 10, there are at least 20. The descendants of every sword owner came to ask for this sword. Wouldn't the Sky Killer sword be divided into 10 pieces? This sword was forged by my ancestor, Song Jifan said. Chuli smiled and shook his head. If that's the case, because this sword was forged by your ancestor, I have to return it to you? Yes. Song Jifan nodded slowly. Chuli said, this sword was given to me by my master. If I give it to you directly, how can I explain to my master? Chapter 34:59. Chuli laughed out loud and shook his head. How would you know if my master is offended or not? You're not my master. Song Jifan's face darkened. The handsome young man next to him already had a gloomy face. He scoffed coldly. So you're saying that you won't return the sword? Chu Li nodded. Of course. How could I return the sword just because someone said it was mine? If it was that easy, wouldn't the world be at peace and there would be no more disputes? Very well. I knew you would do this. Lu Jun sneered and stood up. Then I'll use the martial arts world's way of dealing with it. I want to experience your martial arts and see if it's as amazing as the rumors say it is. Shui said lightly. You're not qualified to fight with Master just because of someone else. How arrogant. Lu Jun sneered. Looks like you're going to fight for him? If he can get past me, it won't be too late to fight with Master. Shui said lightly. Then I'll fight with you. Lu Jun stepped into the middle of the hall and waved his sleeves. More than 10 armchairs moved back and gave way to an empty space in the middle. He stepped on the thick and soft white carpet and closed fist saluted. Remember my name? Lu Jun. Shui. Shui took a step forward and approached him. It was as if she had a wheel under her feet. Her body did not move at all, showing off her excellent light body technique. Li Meng's eyes widened and her face was full of envy. She wanted to cultivate martial arts the most, but Chu Li did not teach her martial arts. He only asked her to chant scriptures. After chanting for only 2 hours, she felt like her head was going to explode. Chanting scriptures could even make her fall asleep. Do it, Lu Jun scoffed. Shui did not hold back and lightly struck out with her palm. An extremely cold aura instantly appeared in front of Lu Jun. Lu Jun extended his palm to meet it. Bang! Lu Jun took a step back and frowned at Shui. He did not expect Shui, who looked so weak and did not seem to have a high cultivation level, to have such a pure palm energy. He felt like his palm hit a block of ice. It was hard and pure. The cold penetrated through his palm and into his body. He channeled his inner energy to dissolve the force of the palm. His expression was solemn as he realized that he had underestimated Shui Ling. He rushed forward and attacked with his palm. It was as if a warm breeze was blowing in the main hall, dispersing the chill caused by Shui Ling's palm energy. Pung, 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 pung. One of their palms was extremely cold, while the other was as warm as the spring wind. Neither of them could do anything to the other. In a single breath, they struck out more than 100 palms. The two auras intertwined in the hall, causing the hall to become hot and cold. Lu Jun suddenly changed his move and rushed forward. He wanted to fight Shui Ling in close combat. He wanted to use his strong body to suppress Shui Ling. Bang. The two palms collided. This time, it was not a long-range attack, but a direct collision of two palms. Bam! Lu Jun suddenly flew backwards and smashed a chair into pieces. He fell to the ground and stared at Shui Ling in disbelief. He had thought that his palm would be able to send Shui Ling flying, but in the end, he was the one who was sent flying. Shui Ling's fair little hand contained a strength as strong as a bear's, catching him off guard. Even if he had been prepared, he would not have been able to block it. Shui Ling looked at him indifferently and slid behind Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and looked at Song Jifan. Song Jifan got up and left the chair. He came to the center of the hall. Chief Chu, it's our turn. Shui Ling was about to speak when Chu Li waved his hand to stop her. He sighed. Are you guys going to snatch the Sky Killer Sword? We just want to get the Sky Killer Sword back, Song Jifan said. As for whether to persuade or take it by force, it's not up to us. It's up to you, Song Jifan said. Chu Li smiled. If that's the case, then let's do it. He slowly walked toward Song Jifan and smiled. Please. Song Jifan pulled out the long sword from his waist and stabbed towards Chu Li. Chu Li pulled out the sword with difficulty. Song Jifan's body froze, and his expression changed. The slow and difficult Sky Killer Sword stabbed towards Song Jifan's right shoulder. At first glance, it seemed that Song Jifan deliberately did not dodge and watched the Sky Killer Sword stab towards him. Bishop, Lu Jun shouted. Song Jifan's body trembled. His handsome face was flushed as if he was fighting against an invisible force. He stared at the tip of the Sky Killer Sword. Moo! Chu Li suddenly let out a shout. Song Jifan trembled again, but did not move. Lu Jun rushed towards Chu Li with lightning speed. However, Chu Li had already taken 2 steps back and returned to the chair. His movement seemed slow, but it was actually an illusion. Everyone had this illusion. In fact, his speed was extremely fast. He stabbed in an instant, but it seemed like a long time had passed in the eyes of the people. This was caused by the power emitted by the Sky Killer 3 forms. This power was strange and unpredictable. Chuli could not figure out. He was using the cosmic insight technique to derive and understand it. He wanted to find the source of this power, the cultivation method, and the way to use it. Good, as expected of the Sky Killer sword. Song Jifan shouted excitedly while holding his shoulder. Lu Jun nodded his head hard. His eyes were shining as he stared at the Sky Killer sword on Chu Li's waist. Chu Li smiled. Master Song, do you still want to continue? Chu Li, although your swordsmanship is good and your cultivation level is high, you are no match for me. Song Jifan let go of his hand. The wound on his shoulder was no longer bleeding. He said to Chu Li seriously, so it's better to be tactful. I will show you some mercy. Chu Li could not help but laugh. You came to steal my sword. I was hoping that you would show me some mercy. I wonder how honorable Master Song is. You will never imagine how honorable I am. Lu Jun scoffed. Chu Li said, even the leader of the Fu dynasty is not as honorable as Master Song. He secretly frowned. Logically speaking, if Song Jifan was the leader of the faction of longevity, he should not have exposed his identity at this time. Although not many people knew about the faction of longevity, they were all top-notch figures. Once the faction of longevity reappeared, they would naturally become a piece of juicy meat. Unless they had enough strength to protect themselves, they would not dare to appear in broad daylight. If that was the case, they had to be careful. Of course, Lu Jun said proudly. Young Lu, forget it, Song Jifan said. Yes. Lu Jun nodded without hesitation and took a step back respectfully. Chu Li looked at Song Jifan. In the end, he shook his head and sighed. Master Song, have a safe trip. I won't see you out. I will come again, Song Jifan said. Chu Li said, anytime. All right. Song Jifan looked at him deeply and turned to leave. Lu Jun stared at Chu Li and sneered. You don't know what's good for you. Next time, it won't just be the two of us. Chu Li frowned. His eyes flashed, and it scared Lu Jun. Lu Jun immediately became angry. He stared at Chu Li fiercely and turned to follow Song Jifan. They strode out of the public house and left. Li Ming hurriedly said, Are you letting them go just like that? Aren't you going to teach them a lesson? Chu Li glanced at her. Why don't you go and teach them a lesson? I didn't practice martial arts. Otherwise, I would have done it. Li Ming hurriedly said. Chu Li shook his head and turned to walk back. Xue followed him to the courtyard and sat in the pagoda. Xue personally brewed tea. When she served him a cup of tea, Chu Li took a sip. Xue sighed. Master, are they from an extraordinary background? She could see the fear in Chu Li's eyes. Chapter 3460. Chu Li put down his teacup and sighed. If what they said is true, then they must be people of great background. What's his background? Xue Ling asked. Chu Li shook his head. It's a long story. He explained the details of the Changsheng denomination to Xue Ling. Since Xue Ling was in charge of gathering intelligence, she should know about this information. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to identify the most important information, and she might make a mistake in her judgment. After listening to Chu Li, Xue Ling frowned and said, If that's the case, they are the descendants of the longevity faction? Chu Li said, If he's really a descendant of the longevity church, it's going to be quite lively for him to appear so openly. The heritage of the Changsheng sect would even tempt Empyrean gods. Empyrean gods were divided into different levels, and they had to continue cultivating. Even if they could not cultivate, what about their descendants? Back then, the Changsheng sect was extremely powerful and invincible. Of course, the Changsheng denomination would think of this. Since they still dared to make it public under such circumstances, they must have something up their sleeves. They already had enough power to maintain the inheritance. Could it be that they had another enlightened master? Another Song Wuji had appeared? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shake his head. Master, should I send someone to keep an eye on them? Xue Ling asked. Chu Li shook his head. Don't move yet. Xue Ling nodded slowly. If that's the case, they must be very strong. Master, Do you want to hand over the Sky Killer sword? I'm afraid I'll have to hand it over in the end. Chu Li sighed. The sky-killing sword came from Song Wuji. Now that Song Wuji's descendant had appeared to demand the sword, Immortal Attraction Mountain would probably have to return it to Song Jifan. Song Jifan had directly asked him for the sword. Even if he wanted to return it, he couldn't rashly do so. After all, he had obtained it from Zhou Dunli. He needed Zhou Dunli to decide whether to return it or not. Moreover, even if he wanted to return it, he wouldn't want to return it to someone like Song Jifan. However, Song Jifan was extremely dangerous and could not be provoked. He was even more dangerous than Tang Su. Even if Tang Su ran into him, he would not be able to get away with it. Today, Song Jifan was able to injure him by surprise. It was a trick. Chu Li stood up with his hands behind his back and looked to the west. It was the inn where Song Jifan and Lu Jun were staying. He felt that Song Jifan's trump card must be the sacrificial divine art. After mastering the sacrificial divine art, he could exert 10 times the power. Song Jifan's cultivation was similar to his. If Song Jifan used the sacrificial divine art, with his sacrificial formula and many secret skills, he would not be a match for Song Jifan. If Master Zhou Dunli did not want to get involved in the matters of the Changshan sect, he might just return the sky regaining sword. Li Meng said, if we really return the sword to him, wouldn't that be too depressing? Chu Li turned around and sat down. He smiled. You can't defeat him, so why don't you return his things? You'll only return it after getting beaten up. Don't you feel aggrieved? Didn't you hurt him? Li Meng asked. Chu Li shook his head. It's just a trick. I won't be so lucky next time. I see. Li Meng tilted her head and looked at him. You really can't beat him? I can't. Chu Li shook his head. He trusted his instincts. There would always be someone stronger than you, and there would always be someone stronger in this world. He had never thought that he was invincible under the heavens. Even heavenly deities didn't dare to say they were invincible, let alone him. How about I ask my teacher to come and teach him a lesson? Li Meng said. Chu Li shook his head. She's bound by the heavenly rules. She can't simply attack grandmasters. He actually felt that Sun Mingwei wouldn't be able to defeat Song Jifan. Li Meng was speechless when she heard it so clearly out of nowhere. Li Meng couldn't help but exclaim in her heart. He was training his fist and talking at the same time, but he was actually multitasking. He even listened to her chanting without missing a single word. His ability was amazing. It was late at night. Chu Li bid farewell to King An's imperial residence's backyard. He asked Shao Qi to stay behind while he returned to the public house alone. Then, he disguised himself as an old man and appeared in an inn in Chongming Town. The old man that he disguised himself as had an aura of lethargy. There were no flaws at all. This was because he used the life and death scripture. Not only did he have an old face, but his entire body was also flawless. It was a sign of aging and decay. He stood outside a house and sneered. The remnants of the Changshan sect. How dare you? As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He disappeared into the night sky like a wisp of smoke. Song Jifan and Lu Jun immediately opened the window and floated out. They followed closely behind him until they left Chongming Town and arrived at the forest on the outskirts. A bright moon hung in the sky like an ice wheel. The moonlight was like water. The chirping of the insects in the forest suddenly stopped, as if they sensed danger. The old man that Chu Li disguised as had white eyebrows. His face was heavily wrinkled. His eyes were filled with dignity and brilliance. He stared at Song Jifan and Lu Jun. You're the remnants of the Changshan sect, right? Chapter 3461. Lu Jun yelled, Who are you, old man? What do you mean by remnants? We're the descendants of the Longevity Church. Then you're a remnant. Chu Li's voice was hoarse as if sand had rolled past him. He felt indescribably uncomfortable as he sized them up with his bright eyes and shook his head. The Longevity Church used to be so powerful and famous, but now there's only a few of you left. What a pity. Who are you? Lu Jun frowned and glared at him. He scoffed, unwilling to be outdone. The Longevity Church has never harmed anyone. How did it become a cult? Don't slander us. I'm slandering you. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Go ask around. Anyone who hears about the Longevity Church will call it cult. How many enlightened masters have you killed? Those gods coveted our divine arts and wanted to besiege our Changsheng sect to snatch the secret manuals, but in the end, they were all killed. They deserved it. Not only did they not say that they were robbers, they even said that we were the devil's sect. How preposterous. Lu Jun sneered. Who exactly are you? Chu Li replied, I'm just a descendant of the enlightened masters killed by the Longevity Church. Then we're enemies. Lu Jun scoffed. What else is there to say? Let's do it. Chu Li shook his head. The Longevity Church no longer rules the world. After 1,000 years, the Grandmaster's martial arts are stronger. The era of the Longevity Church's dominance is over. Don't even think about it. Old man, what do you know? The Longevity Church's martial arts are the strongest. Lu Jun laughed coldly. What bullsh** *T is the Grandmaster's martial arts? They're just fooling us. It's funny that you're still so diligent in cultivating it. What a joke. Huh? Chu Li laughed. Then tell me, what's so good about the Longevity Church? It's just that sacrificial divine power. You'll only be left with half your life after using it. What a joke. You think we only have sacrificial divine power? Lu Jun laughed coldly. You're the one who's funny. The sacrificial divine power is just a secret technique. Who would use it for no reason? The Changshan sect doesn't have any other cultivation arts. Chu Li shook his head and said, let's not talk about Grandmaster's martial arts. Let's talk about spirit beast martial arts. In terms of true power, can it compare to the dragon taming technique or the black tortoise power? The 4 great spiritual beasts' unique skills are nothing. Lu Jun curled his lips and scoffed. You're really ignorant. Forget it. Young Lu, why are you talking to him about this? Song Jifan, who had been sizing up Chu Li, suddenly said, let's do it. Yes, sect leader. Lu Jun hurriedly nodded and was about to make a move. Chu Li laughed at Song Jifan. Bishop, are you the sect master of the Changshan sect? What? Can't I become the sect master of the Changshan sect? Song Jifan frowned and stared at him. He had been trying to see how strong Chu Li was, but he could not figure out how strong he was. Chu Li seemed strong, but he seemed to be declining at the same time, yet he could not tell if he was strong or not. The two feelings of strength and weakness were tangled together, and it was very strange. He wanted to figure it out, but he could not. Chu Li said, you're so young. What makes you worthy of becoming the bishop? Is it just because you're Song Wuji's descendant? That's enough. Lu Jun scoffed. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. A hero like Song Wuji hasn't appeared for 1,000 years. Even his descendant can't reach his achievements. Under his circumstances, the Changshan sect was destroyed. If I'm not as good as him, how can I be the bishop? Who said that our bishop is not as good as our ancestor? Lu Jun said coldly. Our bishop is better than Ancestor Wuji. Moreover, the world is not the same as before. The Changshan sect will definitely dominate the martial arts world. Young Lu, Song Jifan yelled. Bishop, we're going to kill him anyway. What's the harm in telling him? Lu Jun said. Song Jifan frowned. Be careful with your words. Chu Li laughed and shook his head. What are you laughing at? Lu Jun gritted his teeth and said hatefully, what's so funny? Chu Li laughed. How arrogant. The Changshan sect used to be filled with masters. Now, there are only 2 of you, and you're talking about dominating the martial arts world. I'm dying of laughter. Who said there are only 2 of us? Lu Jun laughed coldly. All these years, the Changshan sect has been quietly accumulating strength, waiting for this day to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Haha, amaze the world with a single brilliant feat in that case. You can go and kill an enlightened master. As long as you can kill an enlightened master, just like Chu Li, you'll naturally amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Or you can kill Chu Li. Killing him is the same. Moreover, he's a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. If you kill him, the mountain master of Goddess Attraction Mountain will definitely make a move. If you kill the mountain master, you'll truly dominate the martial arts world. No one will doubt that. That's what we're planning to do. Lu Jun scoffed. Chuli could not help but laugh. With just you two? What a joke. Why, you don't believe me? Lu Jun said. Chuli isn't as strong as you think. What about the mountain master of Goddess Attraction Mountain? Chuli stroked his snow-white beard and shook his head with a sigh. He's not someone you can handle. Dominating the martial arts world is just a joke. I won't accompany you two lunatics to mess around. So what if he's the mountain master of Goddess Attraction Mountain? Lu Jun was indignant. If I can kill Chuli, I can kill Zhou Dunley too. Chuli shook his head. I thought you two were the remnants of the Changshan sect who wanted to avenge your ancestors' death. I didn't expect you two to be fools who only know how to dream. If I fight you two again, I'll be bullying you. I won't do that. Goodbye. He turned around and left after he finished speaking. Trying to leave? Lu Jun rushed toward him and slapped his back with both palms. Chuli dodged sideways and had already leaped 100 feet away. Lu Jun let out a strange cry and suddenly sped up. In an instant, he was behind Chu Li and clawed at him. Chu Li turned around and kicked out abruptly and strangely fast. Bam! Lu Jun was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Chu Li turned his head and laughed coldly. You want to kill me with such mediocre martial arts? Again, Lu Jun roared and turned around to leap toward him again. Bam! Chu Li's leg moved like lightning and sent Lu Jun flying again. He had seen Lu Jun fight before. With the combination of the Heavenly Star Insight skill and the Nature Restoration manifestation, he had already guessed the weakness of Lu Jun's technique. Chuli gave up on using his hand and used his leg to kick him unexpectedly. The effect was amazing. Lu Jun spat out a mouthful of blood in the air and fell limply to the ground. Chuli dealt a heavy blow. Since he had sensed their killing intent, he naturally would not hold back. All right, you old fart, you must be tired of living. Lu Jun got up from the ground with difficulty. He gritted his teeth and glared at him. Then have a taste of the sacrificial divine power. As soon as he finished speaking, his body suddenly expanded as if it had doubled in size. His eyes suddenly shot out electric light, and a monstrous aura surged from his body. Chuli frowned. The sacrificial divine power was indeed powerful. Although Lu Jun did not increase his strength by 10 times, it was about 5 times. This way, he had surpassed his own cultivation level. Watch out! Lu Jun let out a thunderous grunt and instantly shot toward Chu Li like a bolt of lightning. Chu Li dodged, and his shadow was hit by Lu Jun. Chapter 3462. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. Coupled with the dissipation, the blood jade palm was completely dissolved and the small injury was healed. He was still in shock and struggled to get up. He frowned and stared at Song Jifan. Is this the sacrificial power? Song Jifan smiled. The sacrificial power isn't as shallow as you think. Do you think it'll be like young Lu's earlier, where it's powerful and domineering? It's worthy of its name, Chu Li praised. Again, sure. Song Jifan smiled. You're more powerful than I thought. What a shame. Why don't you consider joining the Longevity Church? You could take action 3 times a year. As long as you attack 3 times, you can go wherever you want as long as you don't interfere with the Longevity Church's business. Bailey Na was indeed powerful. If it was anyone else who was hit by the blood jade palm, they would be left with a dried corpse as their blood essence would have been sucked dry. He knew the power of his blood jade palm. It was a palm force of 5 times and could swallow a person's blood essence in an instant. Bailey Na was able to withstand it. He was indeed a top-notch master. Chu Li wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "Thank you for your kindness, but the Longevity Church and I are enemies. Even if I don't avenge my ancestor, I won't join the Longevity Church. Sigh, if that's the case, I can only send you on your way." Song Jifan looked regretful. In a flash, the blood jade palm hit Chu Li again. Chu Li wanted to dodge, but he did not have time to do so. Song Jifan was too fast, faster than he imagined. Bam! Chu Li was sent flying again. He crashed into 2 trees and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Li used the blood arrow to dissolve part of the blood jade palm's energy. Song Jifan's blood jade palm was several times better than Huang Tian's. Not only was it pure, but it also had a strange devouring power that could swallow blood essence several times stronger. If Chu Li did not have the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture and the life and death scripture, he would have become a withered corpse. He did not know why Song Jifan knew the Blood Jade Palm too. Could the Church of the Divine Blood and the Longevity Church be related? Song Jifan did not hold back this time. He was determined to kill Chu Li and followed up with another palm. Chu Li saw it in advance and launched a Heavenly King palm. A ray of light fell from the void, and the spiritual energy in the surroundings surged like a gale, instantly condensing into the shadow of a palm. Huh? Song Jifan blocked the Heavenly King's palm with his palm and looked at Chu Li in surprise. Chu Li scoffed and unleashed another Heavenly King palm. The wind howled, and the wind formed by the spiritual chi made his clothes flutter. Once again, a palm shadow condensed in front of him and instantly hit Song Jifan. Song Jifan waved his hand and stood firmly. Although the Heavenly King palm was extremely powerful and overbearing, Song Jifan still managed to break through it easily. The Blood Jade palm was incredibly powerful with the help of the sacrificial divine power. Song Jifan did not wait for Chu Li to use the Heavenly King palm again and struck him with his palm. Bam! Chu Li flew backward and spat out another mouthful of blood in the air. Song Jifan stopped and stood behind him with his hands behind his back. How do you know the Heavenly King palm? Chu Li asked. Why can't I know Heavenly King palm? Song Jifan replied. The Heavenly King palm is an antique study passed down by my faction. It's a shame that you didn't use it properly, but to be able to cultivate it to this stage, you're already a genius. Chu Li frowned. The Longevity faction's martial arts. That's right. It was passed down by the Longevity faction. It's a palm technique complemented by the Heavenly King's supremacy. If the two are used together, the power will increase by 10 times, so you haven't mastered the essence of it. Chu Li laughed and shook his head. 10 times? How is that possible? That's why I said you're short-sighted. You think that the martial arts you've seen are the best in the world, but you don't know that they're all inferior martial arts. They're not even worth mentioning in my eyes. Song Jifan shook his head. Chu Li said, let's see what you're capable of. He suddenly smiled and took out a jade talisman from his pocket and crushed it. Song Jifan's vision suddenly blurred, and the scenery suddenly changed as if he had left his original spot. Lu Jun hurriedly said, Formation. Song Jifan said, looks like he came prepared. He's really cunning, as expected of the old man. Lu Jun sneered. Despicable. If you can't win in martial arts, you'll use this trick. Song Jifan said, you have to learn from him. You can't just use martial arts alone. You have to be careful of other tricks too. Sometimes, these tricks are still effective. I don't know any formation. I get a headache just by looking at it, Lu Jun said. Song Jifan shook his head. Chu Li stood not far from them, looking at their confident and calm expressions. He sighed in his heart, knowing that the formation would not be able to trap him. There were a few similar formations outside of Chongming Town, and he had already set them up as an escape route. As long as he was outside of Chongming Town, he would be able to trigger the formation if he did not bump into one or the other. His initial plan was to use the formation to make up for his lack of martial arts, and then think of how to deal with him after trapping him. Later, when he heard their murderous intent, he decided to kill them directly. As for future troubles, he did not care so much. Those who wanted to kill him must be killed. If there was a chance, he would not let it go so that he would not regret it. Suddenly, he threw out a few more talismans. After they flew into the air, they turned into rays of rainbow light and merged into the original formation. The two formations overlapped and multiplied the power. He was sure that the two would not be able to escape. As for taking the opportunity to attack, Chu Li did not do so. Song Jifan's martial arts was too strong, and he must be using the sacrificial divine power. Once he got close, he would definitely counterattack like a flood. His original plan was to trap the two of them until they were exhausted and on the verge of death. Ha! You actually know about formations. How rare! Song Jifan exclaimed. There were only a few people in the world who knew about formations. Formations required the most talent. Without enough talent, no matter how hard one worked, it would be in vain. Reading a formation book was like reading a book from heaven. One would not be able to understand it even if they studied it for a lifetime. Chuli scoffed. His voice lingered in their ears, but they could not tell which direction it came from. I know a thing or two. It's not a problem to trap you. Ridiculous. Lu Jun sneered. You want to trap us with just a formation? If it's a mountain guarding formation, it would be fine. You have a nerve to use such a small formation in front of us. How ridiculous. As he spoke, his body suddenly flashed with a layer of brilliance, as if he was wearing a layer of light. Then he suddenly shot out. Wherever the brilliance passed, the scenery was distorted, and he instantly broke through the formation and came out of the forest. Song Jifan was not as fast and violent as Chu Li. He just strolled leisurely, and there was no brilliance flashing around his body. He just walked slowly and calmly out of the formation. Chu Li's face was solemn. He knew that this was a mystical technique similar to his Deva-human shedding technique. If he could cultivate the Deva-human shedding technique, it was not surprising that the Longevity Church had such a mystical technique. The two came to the main road and turned their heads to look around. Lu Jun scoffed. Did this guy escape? Song Jifan frowned and pondered. He shook his head. He's nearby. I didn't see him, Lu Jun said. Could it be that he knows the invisibility technique? He must have set up a formation to hide himself, Song Jifan said. Chu Li was 10 feet away from them, and he was in another formation. They could not detect him from outside the formation. I'll do it, Lu Jun scoffed. Chapter 3463. Bang! There was a muffled sound, and Chu Li's surroundings shone brightly. Then, the formation was broken, and his figure appeared. Ah, over here! Lu Jun laughed out loud and shot towards Chu Li. Chu Li waved his palm. Bang! Lu Jun was immediately sent flying, and the light around him dissipated. Chu Li was deep in thought. This light was a strange power, similar to his Deva transformation art. It was a power that could restrain the formation. This power was produced by consuming one's lifespan. Lu Jun was really going all out. Perhaps he didn't know that this power would damage his lifespan, or perhaps he didn't care. As a disciple of the Changshan sect and Song Jifan's henchman, it was impossible that he didn't know about it, so he didn't care. Why didn't he care? He was certain that he could become an enlightened master, and then step into the outland to become a celestial being. He would have a lifespan of 10,000 years, so he did not care. In a flash, Song Jifan disappeared from where he stood. In the next moment, his pitch-black palm had already hit Chu Li. Chu Li did not move as if he had not been hit at all. However, his complexion suddenly changed. His ashen complexion turned green, as if he was a dead person. His skin also turned green, as if he had died in an instant. Other than the fact that he was still breathing, he didn't look like a living person at all. Chu Li felt a gloomy, deathly stillness engulfing him in an instant. The deathly stillness instantly robbed his body of vitality, turning him into a dead man. His heartbeat became slower and slower, as if there was no more power. His vision turned pitch black, and he slowly sank into the darkness. Hey, he's still not dead from this palm strike. Lu Jun sneered and looked at Chu Li with a pitiful expression. It's his good fortune to be able to die under the bishop's wheel of life and death. He's not dead. Song Jifan shook his head and struck Chu Li's chest again. Chu Li's body did not move at all. The greenish-white color around his body became more intense. He was motionless, and his breathing had stopped. He's completely dead now, isn't he? Lu Jun asked. Song Jifan furrowed his brows and stared at Chu Li. Chu Li did not move at all. The deathly stillness filled his body and completely enveloped him. There was not a single trace of life left. Logically speaking, Chu Li should have died in such a situation, but Song Jifan could sense a trace of vitality in Chu Li's body. He slapped Chu Li's wheel of life and death again. The situation was still the same as before. Chu Li still had a sliver of hope. What happened? Lu Jun realized that something was wrong. He looked at Chu Li doubtfully and then at Song Jifan. Bishop, Could it be that he can't be killed? His will to live is so strong. Song Jifan sighed and said, "It's really rare to be able to survive the three wheels of life and death. We must recruit such a talent into our sect. Only then can our Changshan sect stand at the peak of all living beings." "Yes," Lu Jun said solemnly. Song Jifan nodded. "Then let's keep him alive. Let's see if he still doesn't obey." "Sectmaster, what if he still doesn't obey?" Song Jifan asked. "Then let's continue." Song Jifan snorted. "I don't believe that he can really hold on." "That's right." Lu Jun smiled. "Torture him well. Let's see how long he can last." He had been taught a lesson by Chu Li. Seeing Chu Li suffer made him happy and comfortable. He wished that Chu Li would never surrender to the Changshan sect. That way, he could continue to torture him and put him in a dilemma of life and death. Song Jifan said, "Your martial arts are not good enough and your mind is not calm enough. This time is enough to teach you a lesson. If I wasn't by your side, you would have been long dead after encountering such a cunning person." "Yes." Lu Jun nodded obediently. "Thank you for your guidance, Bishop," Song Jifan said. "You must know that as my confidant, you will be doing great things in the future. How can you be so impatient? How can I be at ease and entrust things to you?" "Yes, Bishop." Lu Jun quickly said, "Don't worry, Bishop. I will change." I hope so." Song Jifan said, "Don't let me down." "Yes." Lu Jun quickly nodded. While they were talking, Chu Li woke up from his coma. He activated the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture and turned the deathly energy into vitality. In the blink of an eye, his body was nourished and his injuries were healed. Song Jifan frowned and attacked again. Chu Li suddenly extended his palm and faced it with a reincarnation palm. Bang! Both of them took a step back. Song Jifan looked at him in shock. He did not expect Chu Li to be able to block it. The reincarnation palm quickly turned the deathly energy into vitality. After comprehending it, the conversion was easy. It was done with just a thought. Vigorous vitality flowed in his body, and his body became stronger. Song Jifan asked, "What palm technique is this?" Chu Li said, "Heavenly King Palm." "This is not Heavenly King Palm." Song Jifan shook his head. Heavenly King Palm is hard and fierce. It is unstoppable and unstoppable. How can this gentle palm technique be Heavenly King Palm? Chu Li scoffed. "This is the Heavenly King Palm that I've cultivated. If that's the case, take another palm from me," Song Jifan said. He lightly attacked with his right palm. However, Chu Li quickly retreated to avoid it. Song Jifan frowned and looked angry. In a flash, he appeared in front of Chu Li and attacked with his right palm. Chu Li could not avoid it and could only block it with his palm. Bam! Chu Li's face turned pale and thought that it was as he expected. Song Jifan was powerful. Even if he could dissolve the deathly energy, he could not convert it in time under such circumstances. Once again, he was enveloped by the deathly energy and fell into darkness. Song Jifan snorted and slammed his palm down again, followed by two more. "Cult Master, he can't really be dead, right?" Lu Jun asked. "I'd like to see how long he can last." Song Jifan scoffed. "What if then he'll die?" "Yes." Lu Jun nodded. Song Jifan saw that Chu Li had woken up again, and his body was full of vitality. He knew that Chu Li must have a top-notch technique that could reverse life and death. No wonder he did not want to join the Longevity Church. It turned out that he had something up his sleeve. Thinking of this, he was filled with murderous intent and lightly attacked Chu Li. Chu Li had expected this. He took a step back and turned to the side. Song Jifan watched him escape and did not chase after him. "Bishop?" Lu Jun quickly said. "He's about to escape. No hurry." Song Jifan stood with his hands behind his back and said, "It's best if he can escape back home. It'll be easier that way." "Huh? Bishop, are you saying that we should use his family to threaten him?" Lu Jun asked. Song Jifan nodded. "No matter how indifferent he is, does he not care about his family?" "That's right." Lu Jun smiled and said, "Not only can I protect my family, I can also learn peerless martial arts." "Why not?" Song Jifan nodded in satisfaction. "Let's go." Lu Jun quickly followed. Song Jifan sensed Chu Li's aura and followed him from afar. Chu Li saw it with the omniscient mirror. He shook his head and smiled. Suddenly, he took out a jade talisman and threw it into the air. Suddenly, there was a flash of light and a formation was activated. Song Jifan frowned and stopped. The connection was suddenly cut off. Bishop, Lu Jun asked. Song Jifan scoffed. It's still a formation. Lu Jun said, should I go and take a look? Song Jifan gritted his teeth and scoffed. If that's the case, I can only use the secret skill. He drew a circle in the air with both of his hands. Then, he pressed his fingers into a sword and tapped on his temple. He then gently wiped his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes shot out a golden light and looked in Chu Li's direction. Chapter 3464. Chu Li's omniscient mirror seemed to look at the golden light in his eyes and saw each other. It was a strange feeling. He immediately understood that the pair of golden eyes could also see through space and formations to see him. Evil destroying eye. Lu Jun cried out. He did not expect Chu Li to force the bishop to use this strange skill. This was a strange skill that required a high price. Once used, the person would be in a daze for the next 7 days. It would be terrible if he encountered an enemy during this time. Song Jifan said, I must have him. Yes, yes, Lu Jun said. We must make him surrender. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Song Jifan's strange skills and antique studies were endless and seemed to be better than his. He was pleasantly surprised. How is it? Lu Jun asked. Did you see him, Bishop? Yes, let's go, Song Jifan said. He glided past like a shadow and arrived in front of Chu Li in just 2 breaths. He looked at Chu Li calmly as the golden glow in his eyes slowly faded away. His eyes returned to their usual piercing look. Very well, Song Jifan said. I'll give you one last chance. If you don't agree, don't blame me for being merciless and killing you. Say it. Chu Li frowned and looked upset as if he was annoyed that the formation was broken again. Song Jifan said, become a guest of the Church of Longevity and you can fight once a year. The rest of the time is unlimited and you can stay in or out of the church. Chu Li said, you're not asking me to die, are you? Song Jifan said, of course it won't be easy or I won't ask you to fight. I have the chance to refuse to fight. Chu Li said, all right, you can choose. Song Jifan thought for a while and said slowly, but you must fight once. All right, I agree. Chu Li said, you really agree? Lu Jun ran over and cried out. Chu Li nodded and said, I wasn't convinced at first, but now that I'm in a stronger position than I am, I'm going to die if I don't agree. That won't be worth it. So I might as well join the Longevity Church. I like to see how big the Longevity Church can get. Don't you have a grudge against the Changshan sect? Lu Jun snorted. Chu Li smiled. I do have a grudge against Song Wuji. I won't hide it from you, Bishop. One day, when my martial arts is strong enough, I will definitely seek revenge on you. Song Jifan smiled. I'll give you this chance. When he heard this, he felt relieved. Chu Li had suddenly let go of his hatred and joined the Changshan sect. The change was too sudden, but his words showed that he joined the Changshan sect to cultivate more profound mystical arts and antique studies. He did not let go of his hatred, which made him more believable. He was very confident that even if Chu Li cultivated a mystical technique, he would not be able to surpass him. In his eyes, Chu Li was already old and had entered a declining phase. Even if he cultivated mystical arts and antique studies, he would not become much stronger. On the other hand, Chu Li himself would only become stronger and improve by leaps and bounds. Wow, you actually have the intention to rebel. Lu Jun snorted. Then how can I let you live? All right, little Lu. Song Jifan snorted. No matter what he thinks, it's fine as long as he becomes a member of the Changshan sect. Do you want to go home and bring your family into the Changshan sect? Chu Li replied, I live alone in the wilderness. I don't have any family. Bai Li, you're not hiding it on purpose, are you? Lu Jun scoffed. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. All right, then let's go to my house. He turned and walked south. Soon, he entered a tall mountain and stopped in front of a few straw huts halfway up the mountain. There was a fence in front of the straw huts and a vegetable garden around it. There were all kinds of vegetables and fruits in the garden. Although there were only a few of each, there were all kinds of them. There were also some herbs in the corner. "Come in and take a seat." Chuli waved his hand and opened the fence to enter. He sat at the stone table in front of the courtyard and took a teapot to start a fire in the courtyard. "Is this really your house?" Lu Jun asked curiously. His eyes were bright as he carefully looked at the corner to see how many people lived here. Soon, he confirmed that there was only one person living here. Chuli smiled. "It's good to be alone. It's quiet and carefree. That's great. You have nothing to worry about. You can focus on your cultivation in my church." Song Jifan said calmly, "I believe that your cultivation level will improve if you cultivate the antique study of our church." "Thank you, Bishop." Chuli closed fist saluted. He initially wanted to kill Song Jifan and Lu Jun, but he changed his mind now. He wanted to find out the actual situation of the Church of Longevity. Song Jifan's cultivation level was not inferior to his. In addition to the sacrificial divine power, he was no match for him. Through this exchange of blows, he realized that Song Jifan's antique study was endless and was not inferior to his. He did not know how many tricks he had up his sleeves. Even the formation could not control him. If he wanted to kill him, he must first understand him. What if he had some secret technique, like Azura? Even if he killed him, he could not kill him. Moreover, seeing that Song Jifan did not care about the dragon taming technique and the other four spirit beast martial arts, Chuli was curious and wanted to take a look at the antique study of the Church of Longevity. "Bailey Na, the Church of Longevity has strict rules. You must follow the rules after you enter," Song Jifan said seriously. "Although I have freedom, I can't disobey the rules. Don't blame me for being ruthless." Chuli closed fist saluted. "Since I've entered the church, I'll naturally follow the rules." "All right." Song Jifan nodded in satisfaction. As expected of an old man, he understood the ways of the world. He could quickly adjust his position and change his attitude. Lu Jun said, "After you enter the main church, I'll give you a book of the church's rules. It's written very clearly. Remember it first." Chuli nodded. "Bishop, when can I see the antique study of our church?" "After you fight, you'll be qualified to enter the main altar," Song Jifan said. "The principle of our church's foreign minister is that you'll get something for your effort. The secret books of the church need to be exchanged with merits. If you don't contribute, you won't be qualified to see the antique study." "I see." Chuli acted like he had a sudden realization. He sighed in his heart. As expected, there was nothing good in life. One had to work hard to see the antique study. "If you're a disciple of the church, you don't have to do this," Song Jifan said. "You just have to cultivate step by step. When your cultivation level is enough, you'll be able to read the antique study. You don't need to contribute." Chuli smiled and nodded. The disciples of the church had to listen to orders at all times. They could not disobey orders. That was the price. He could tell that Song Jifan was tempting him to join the Church of Longevity and become a disciple. He hesitated for a while. Finally, he shook his head and sighed. "I'm already old. Forget it. I'll just be a foreign minister." "All right then. I'll need your help this time. Do you know Chuli?" Song Jifan said. "Of course." Chuli smiled. "I live near Chongming Town. How can I not know Chuli? He's a master from Chongming Town. The world respects him. This time it's to deal with him. You're familiar with the situation in Chongming Town. Do you know where Chuli's weakness is?" Chapter 3465. Chuli thought for a while and said, "Everyone knows Chuli's weakness. It's the High Duke's public house. As long as they attack the public house, they will provoke Chuli to retaliate, and he will retaliate without mercy. Is that so?" Song Jifan frowned and pondered. Lu Jun smiled and said, "That's easy. Leader, I'll just kill a few protectors of the High Duke's public house. They won't stand a chance anyway. You can't underestimate them." Chuli shook his head and said, "The protectors of the High Duke's public house are not the same as before. They have some real skills. If you meet them, you still have to be careful, especially you, young Lu." "What about me?" Lu Jun scoffed and looked at him coldly. Chuli smiled and said, "To be honest, young Lu, your cultivation level is still lacking. Compared to the protectors of the High Duke's public house, you're still young, and your cultivation time is still short. Bullsh asterisk T. Lu Jun was furious. So what if I'm young? Are you trying to say that I'm still young, so I can't take on big responsibilities? Chu Li chuckled and shook his head. Look at your temper. How can you be so impatient? Lu Jun shouted. Bai Li, don't take advantage of your seniority. Who do you think you are? It's not your place to talk about me. Chu Li only shook his head and smiled. Young Lu. Song Ji Fan frowned. Yes, leader. Lu Jun immediately hid his anger and arrogance, and quickly said respectfully, I'm sorry for being impolite. You need to change your bad temper, Song Ji Fan scoffed and said. Don't get angry just because you're anxious. You have no self-control at all. Yes, Lu Jun quickly nodded. Chu Li smiled and said, young people are all like this. They can't keep their composure, especially when they like to fight. At my age, when there's nothing to fight about, only then can I calm down and do good things. Leader, leave this matter to me. I'll take care of the protectors of the High Duke's public house. You don't have any relationship with the High Duke's public house, right? Song Ji Fan stared at him. Chu Li shook his head and said, they don't interfere with each other. They don't even know about my existence. I don't like the High Duke's public house. They're too overbearing. All martial artists are not allowed to use force in Chongming Town. Whoever uses force will have their martial arts destroyed. There are no exceptions. I think I've heard of this rule, Song Ji Fan said. Chu Li scoffed. After entering Chongming Town, the townspeople don't know any martial arts, but they are unscrupulous. They don't respect the martial arts masters at all, and they have nothing to fear. How infuriating. That's true. Song Ji Fan nodded. Lu Jun snorted. You are incompetent and cowardly. If it were me, so what if I made a move? Chu Li smiled. Then you'll have to face the pursuit of all the protectors of the High Duke's public houses. Not only the public house, but the other 11 High Duke's public houses will also be sent to the Great Ji dynasty. He used to be the Chiliarch of the Secret Guardians Hall, so he's definitely well informed. It's not impossible for him to find the disciples of the Longevity sect. Very well, let's not rush to kill them. Song Ji Fan slowly said, let's cripple 2 of the public house's protectors first. Leave it to me. Chu Li fist saluted. Lu Jun said, Cult Master, let me do it. You're not familiar with the situation. You can't act rashly. Song Ji Fan shook his head. Let's see what Chu Li does first. Yes. Lu Jun nodded helplessly. Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, Bishop, I'll return at this time tomorrow. Go. Song Ji Fan said. Chu Li got up and left his small courtyard. He went into the forest and disappeared. Lu Jun searched the houses one by one, trying to find traces of another person. Unfortunately, there was only one person living here. Chu Li prepared more than 10 of such identities. It was like a formation in the world. Every time one was used, another would be added. There was an old man living in these few thatched houses. His name was Bai Li Na, and he was a martial arts master. However, his martial arts had not reached the level of a grandmaster. When he received Chu Li's message, he immediately went to the public house to hide. No one could find him. Chu Li looked exactly like him. Even if Song Ji Fan and Lu Jun went into the city, they could still find out about Bai Li Na. Chu Li was originally studying this. Naturally, he did it flawlessly. It was almost impossible to find out anything unusual. After Lu Jun searched around, he returned to the stone table. Bishop, I should follow him and watch him. What's there to see? Song Ji Fan shook his head. Since you recruited him, you have to trust him. On the surface, it's not a big deal. Don't be petty. What if he took the opportunity to report to Chu Li and secretly escape? Lu Jun scoffed. Song Ji Fan said, he can't run away. Lu Jun smiled. That's true. Bishop, is this guy really worth spending so much effort to recruit? You'll know in the future. Song Ji Fan said, this time you don't follow him. Next time, you have to follow him. It's not to monitor him. It's to let you learn from him. Be more experienced. Yes. Lu Jun nodded helplessly. Song Ji Fan said, also, you can reveal some of the incantations of the divine technique. Just the first or second level. Bishop, how can I do that? Lu Jun hurriedly said. Song Jifan said lightly. I can see that he's a martial arts fanatic. As long as you keep him in suspense with the divine technique, you don't have to worry about not working hard. Yes, Lu Jun helplessly agreed. He felt that it was too easy for Chu Li. Even if it was only the first or second level, it would be a world-shaking antique study in the outside world. Chapter 3466. Dong Jinshin appeared and said, Junior brother, you rang the bell again. Didn't I tell you to ask me first? Chu Li turned his head and closed fist saluted. Senior brother, this is a serious matter. I have to inform Master. What is it? Dong Jinshin asked. Chu Li sighed. The Changshan sect has reappeared in the martial arts world. Impossible? Dong Jinshin was shocked. Is he a real disciple of the Changshan sect, or is he using it as a disguise? Most likely. Chu Li said, I fought with Song Jifan, who calls himself the bishop. I was lucky enough to injure him, but next time I will not be his opponent. His cultivation level is the same as mine, and with the sacrificial divine power. That is troublesome. Dong Jinshin frowned. Chu Li said, Does Song Wuji really have descendants? Yes. Dong Jinshin nodded, and there are many. Song Wuji is a very lustful person. He has many women and many children. That should be it. Chu Li sighed. Song Jifan is looking for trouble. He wants to kill me to establish his authority, and also wants the sky-killing sword. I can only look for Master. Arrogant guy. Dong Jinshin scoffed. If he wants to kill you to establish his authority, why not kill enlightened masters? Chu Li said, he knows that enlightened masters can't do anything to him. He probably doesn't have the confidence to defeat enlightened masters. No matter how strong a grandmaster is, or how deep his cultivation level is, if there is no qualitative change, he still can't do anything to enlightened masters. It is just like how even the strongest waves cannot break a reef. He was able to defeat enlightened masters because of the supreme diamond scripture, which cultivated the spiritual energy from the outland. Unfortunately, his supreme diamond scripture inner energy was already very little because he could no longer cultivate it with Sun Mingwei. He could only use it sparingly. That little bit of supreme diamond scripture inner energy was not enough to deal with enlightened masters. It might not be enough to deal with Song Jifan either. Song Jifan's unique skills were endless and impossible to defend against. As the two were talking, Zhou Dunley appeared on a golden dragon. His purple robe fluttered and his face was amiable like a deity. Master, the two closed fists saluted. Zhou Dunley waved his hand and entered the basilica. Chu Li, speak. What happened? Zhou Dunley sat on the armchair. Chu Li told him about Song Jifan. Zhou Dunley stroked his beard as he pondered. He looked out the hall and seemed to be looking at the thick fog outside. Dong Jian said in his heart, Master, are we really going to return the heaven-killing sword to him? Logically speaking, we should return it to him, Zhou Dunley said. After all, this is Song Wuji's sword. It's not right for us to hold on to it. Chu Li said, if he's a gentle gentleman, it's fine to give it to him. However, he's full of ambition. Giving him the Sky Regicide sword is no different from adding fuel to the fire. It's not beneficial to the stability of the world. That's right, Dong Jian said in his heart. Sure, Fu, we must not give it to him. Song Wuji gave the sword to us. Why must we return it to his descendant? Chu Li nodded. I'm afraid that there are other secrets hidden in this heaven-killing sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to insist on taking back the heaven-killing sword. If he did, he would offend Goddess Attraction Mountain, and the loss would outweigh the gain. He might know the ins and outs of our immortal Attraction Mountain, said Zhou Dunley with a smile. Chu Li frowned. That's even scarier. Zhou Dunley pondered. Do you know his ins and outs? His cultivation level is similar to mine, but he has the sacrificial divine power and has several antique studies. Chu Li shook his head. I can't handle him, sure, Fu. Hee, I can't handle him either? Zhou Dunley said. Chu Li said, Sure, Fu, Sun Mingwei and I are teaming up to deal with an enlightened master. One Song Jifan uses the sacrificial divine power. He's 10 times stronger than me. I'm afraid. If that's the case, I have to be careful and not act rashly. Zhou dumbly laughed and shook his head. I finally understand what you mean. What you really want to tell me is this. Zhou dumbly suddenly understood Chu Li's thoughts. Chu Li sighed. As far as I know, he's using the divine and antique studies of the Church of Longevity to recruit masters from all over the world. This is very attractive to grandmasters. I'm sure he'll be able to grow quickly. You're trying to say that the world won't be peaceful again. Zhou dumbly said. Chu Li slowly nodded. The martial arts of the Church of Longevity. Zhou dumbly stood up and paced around with his hands behind his back. After a while, he stopped and shook his head. To be honest, I don't know what kind of martial arts and antique studies the Church of Longevity has. After all, it was a long time ago. Moreover, after Song Wuji ascended to heaven, everything about the Church of Longevity disappeared without a trace. When Song Wuji was around, the Church of Longevity was also very mysterious. It was difficult for outsiders to enter. Chu Li said, I heard that there's the unique king of the heavenly king, sky howling moon, and immeasurable light. There are others, but I haven't found out about them yet. The unique king of the heavenly king, sky howling moon, and immeasurable light. Zhou dumbly thought for a while and shook his head. I've never heard of them. Seems like they're not ordinary martial arts. Chu Li said, I've learned the heavenly king palm before. Its power is extraordinary. As he said this, he slammed his palm toward Zhou dumbly. A ball of light fell from the sky and directly passed through the roof of the basilica. It landed inside the basilica and hovered above Chu Li's palm. It was bright and sparkling like a ball of autumn water. It soaked Chu Li's right palm. The surrounding wind howled and spiritual energy surged, drilling into the ball of light. In an instant, it condensed into a clear white jade palm. It was no different from Chu Li's palm. Then, it struck at Zhou dumbly's chest at lightning speed. Zhou dumbly extended his palm to receive the attack. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Zhou dumbly's clothes fluttered. Dong Jianxin slid 3 meters away. His face was flushed and his blood was boiling. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Li stood firmly on the spot and smiled. What do you think of the Heavenly King palm, Master? It's fierce and overbearing. It's a good palm technique. Zhou dumbly nodded in approval. Chu Li said, I heard that the Heavenly King palm is a palm technique that comes with the unique king of the Heavenly King. The unique king of the Heavenly King is the heart technique of the Heavenly King palm. If you use the unique king of the Heavenly King to activate the Heavenly King palm, its power will increase by 10 times. 10 times. Zhou dumbly nodded slowly with a serious expression. If it was 10 times, he estimated that this palm strike could really threaten him. Although I don't know if it's real or fake, we have to be on guard. Chu Li said, so we still have to think of a way to deal with the Church of Longevity. There's no rush. Zhou dumbly said, it's not that easy to make a name for himself among the major sects in the world. He's just one person. If a few enlightened masters attack him together, can he handle it? Chu Li said thoughtfully, Master, you mean to make him the public enemy? Zhou dumbly smiled. You. He shook his head and looked at the confused Dong Jianxin. He felt helpless. Chu Li was relieved to hand the Next Hill Master over to Chu Li. However, the Next Hill Master could not be handed over to Jianxin. He was indeed lacking in intelligence. Once the Church of Longevity rose, it would be a huge test for Goddess Attraction Mountain. Dong Jianxin would not be able to handle it. Although it was still too early to predict the rise of the Church of Longevity, one had to look at the long term. The changes in the world were often unexpected. No matter what, the martial arts of the Church of Longevity is still very tempting. Chu Li said, there's yin and yang in everything. Zhou dumbly said, I'll inform the other enlightened masters about this. Keep an eye on him. If there's really a change, try to suppress it and not let the Church of Longevity rise. Chapter 3467. As for him wanting to deal with you, the Sky Killer Sword cannot be handed over. Zhou dumbly muttered, how about this? You hide from him for now and say that you are cultivating in isolation at Goddess Attraction Mountain. If he wants the Sky Killer Sword, he can come to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li said, he is preparing to kill the protectors of the public house to force me to appear. This is a vicious method, similar to what Tang Haoyan did back then. Zhou Dunley shook his head. It is not easy to break. Have you thought of a solution? Yes, Chu Li said slowly. Then go all out. Zhou Dunley said, if it is not possible, I will make a move. Thank you, Master. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Zhou Dunley waved his hand and smiled. Don't be so courteous with me. You are no match for him, so naturally, I have to make a move. Chu Li smiled and nodded. It was easy to make Zhou Dunley not break the precepts as long as he was heavily injured. Song Jifan knew that hurting him would provoke Master Zhou Dunley, but still dared to attack him. He would not be at ease if he did not find out. If something happened to Zhou Dunley, it would be troublesome. He did not want to be an enlightened master. If he did not want to, he could only cripple his martial arts and weaken his cultivation. But Dong Jianxin could not support Goddess Attraction Mountain now. Master, leave the Sky Killer Sword here. Chu Li untied the long sword at his waist and said slowly, if something happens to me, the sword cannot be lost. Nonsense. Zhou Dunley scoffed. The Sky Killer Sword is not worth mentioning compared to you. Just take it. If it is not possible, hand over the sword. Yes. Chu Li nodded lightly and did not say much. Zhou Dunley's words made people feel emotional, but they could only accept it silently. In the evening, Chu Li, who had transformed into Bailey Na, appeared in a few huts on the mountainside. He saw Lu Jun and Song Jifan, who were cultivating. How is it? Song Jifan stood up and took the towel from Lu Jun. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. How much did you lose? 3. Chu Li raised 3 fingers and smiled. The sneak attack was successful. These 3 people's cultivation is not weak. The E-Public House's protectors are getting harder. So you've dealt with the protectors of the E-Public House before? Song Jifan asked. Chu Li chuckled and declined to comment. The E-Public House has probably received the news. Chu Li has received the news as well. When are we going to visit them? There's no hurry. Song Jifan shook his head and said, it's still a little short. We'll go tomorrow. That's true. Chu Li smiled and said, not many people know about it now. When everyone knows about it tomorrow and the news spreads throughout Chongming town, he will have no choice but to make a move. At least you have some brains. Lu Jun curled his lips. Chu Li chuckled and glanced at him. If it were young Lu, he wouldn't be able to maintain his composure like you, Bishop. You. Lu Jun gritted his teeth and glared at him. These words made him unable to retort. No matter what he said, it wouldn't be appropriate. He could only take this blow. Song Jifan didn't care about the scheming between the two of them. He would only care if his subordinates were really as one. Instead, they would be more motivated to fight each other, and they would work even harder to surpass each other. I'll have to ask around. Lu Jun snorted. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. You're too narrow-minded. How can you fake something like this? Lu Jun turned and left. Song Jifan shook his head and said, he's still too young. This young Lu is kind-hearted, but he's still young and impetuous. Chu Li quickly nodded. Don't worry, Bishop. I know what I'm doing. I'm just messing around. That's good. Do you think Chu Li will attack me after crippling these 3 masters? Song Jifan said. That's for sure. He values the High Duke's public house the most. Even if he knows he can't defeat Bishop, he won't back down. That's good. Song Jifan slowly nodded. Chu Li thought about it and said softly, Bishop, there's something I don't understand. I don't know if I should ask. Just say it, Song Jifan said. Chu Li said, Chu Li is a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. If he's injured, the leader of Goddess Attraction Mountain will definitely attack. The power of an enlightened master is unstoppable, especially the leader of Goddess Attraction Mountain. He's the world's #1 master. Can Bishop stop him? Song Jifan scoffed. The world's #1 master. Chu Li quickly said, there's no doubt about this, right? Could it be that Sect Master can really defeat Immortal Attraction Mountain Master? I have my own methods. You should know that enlightened masters aren't invincible. There were many enlightened masters thousands of years ago. Which one of them was truly invincible? Those who were supposed to fall did. My ancestor killed many enlightened masters, Song Jifan said. He paused and smiled. Of course, that includes your ancestor. Chu Li's expression was a little unpleasant. He nodded and said, although I hate Bishop Song Wuji, I also admire him. Such methods are really frightening. Thinking about my ancestor's glory, it's really admirable. Song Jifan stood with his hands behind his back and sighed. Chu Li said, I wonder what divine technique Bishop Song Wuji used to kill enlightened masters. This is a secret of the church. Song Jifan smiled. Chu Li quickly nodded. I've overstepped my boundaries. I'm just too curious. My heart is pounding. If I don't know, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Huh? Song Jifan laughed. There's no harm in telling you. The ageless longevity technique that I'm cultivating has such power. Ageless longevity technique, Chu Li exclaimed. Could it be that after cultivating it, one can really not age and live forever? Of course, Song Jifan said. If it wasn't for so many enlightened masters besieging him, I don't know how long my ancestor could live. It's a pity that this group of people. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Chu Li showed a look of longing. Unfortunately, we don't have the right to cultivate it, right? Only the official disciples of the church can cultivate it, Song Jifan said seriously. After all, it's a secret inheritance. It can't be leaked. Of course. Chu Li quickly nodded. His face showed a look of longing, but his heart was racing. If he guessed correctly, it was probably related to Heaven Regaining Sword. Heaven Regaining Sword still had secrets that had not been dug out. Song Jifan looked at his longing expression and secretly laughed. He did not have to worry that Bailey Na would not be completely loyal to him. After an hour, Lu Jun fluttered back. He glared at Chu Li and scoffed. There's no news at all. You're trying to fool us. It's fine to fool me, but if you're trying to fool the bishop, you deserve to die. Chu Li smiled indifferently. Aren't you going to explain? Lu Jun said coldly. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. I really have nothing to say. You're still so arrogant, even when you're about to die. Tell me, are you from the High Duke's public house? Lu Jun shouted. Chu Li laughed. You're dreaming. Lu Jun shouted. Laugh. How can you still laugh? If you don't tell me, don't blame me for being rude. So what if you're rude? With your martial arts, what can you do to me? Chu Li laughed. Even if I can't beat you, there's still the bishop, Lu Jun scoffed. Chu Li said, the bishop is wise and powerful. How can you be so stupid? Who are you calling stupid? Lu Jun shouted angrily. His eyes widened. If you really crippled the protector of the High Duke's public house, would there be no news at all? Chu Li laughed. Young Lu, you're underestimating the High Duke's public house. If they don't want the news to spread, can you find out? Lu Jun said fiercely. If I can't find out, then what do you say? Chapter 3468. What do you mean? Lu Jun's eyes widened. Chu Li smiled. If you can get some information, then it's not right. If the House of High Dukes doesn't have any tricks up their sleeves, it's a waste for them to be the mayor of Chongming Town for so many years. Oh, so you're saying that it's normal if I can't get any information, but it's not normal if I do? Lu Jun scoffed. You're really good at quibbling. Chu Li sighed and shook his head. If you can really get some information, then it means that the House of High Dukes deliberately spread it. There must be something fishy about it. As for now, everything is normal. Let's wait for the news tomorrow. We still have to wait for another day. Lu Jun scoffed. How many have you crippled? 3 grandmasters, Chu Li said. Although they're not that strong, they're definitely not weak. They should be among the top protectors of the House of High Dukes. You can blow your trumpet now, Lu Jun said with a look of disbelief. Leader, should I go and cripple a few? Forget it, it's fine to wait. Song Jifan shook his head. One more day won't make a difference. Yes, Lu Jun opened his mouth, but in the end, he could only agree. Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. Thank you, leader. Song Jifan shook his head. I only know how to make the best use of everything. If you're really a talent, I won't mistreat you. What martial arts are you cultivating? Chu Li smiled. To be honest, I had a fortuitous encounter. I'm cultivating the cloud slashing power. It's a real divine martial art. Unfortunately, I got it too late. I've only cultivated it for a few years. Cloud slashing power. Song Jifan thought about it and shook his head, indicating that he had never heard of it. Lu Jun snickered. Divine skill? What a joke. Chu Li scoffed. If I had cultivated it when I was young Lu, you wouldn't have the right to stand in front of me and talk nonsense. All right, I've seen through you now. Lu Jun shook his head and said, he's just a guy who loves to blow conch shells. If he doesn't blow for a while, his whole body will itch. Chu Li glared at him, then turned his head and smiled at Song Jifan. This cloud-slashing power once caused a bloodbath in the martial arts world. Countless people fought for it, but in the end, I managed to get my hands on it. So, I hid it and secretly cultivated it. Unfortunately, although it's a divine power, it can't defy nature. I'm already old, and my vigor has deteriorated. Your inner energy is very pure. Obviously, your cloud-slashing power is not weak either. Song Jifan nodded and said, go ahead and cultivate it first. Once you've made enough contributions, you can switch to cultivating the divine technique in the church. I'm sure it'll be better than the cloud-slashing power. Yes. Chu Li Fist saluted with a look of longing. Lu Jun pursed his lips and said nothing. Chu Li said, Bishop, I'll return to Chongming Town first. I'll keep an eye on the High Duke's public house and see if they have any other moves. That's fine too. Song Jifan nodded. Once Chu Li fluttered away, Lu Jun approached him and asked, Bishop, do you really believe him? Looks like it's true. Song Jifan said, the cloud-slashing power is not an ordinary martial art. Unfortunately, it's not complete. Its original name is extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, concealing cloud power. It's the heart technique of the ancient sect extinguishing heaven and destroying earth. Lu Jun laughed and said, what a long name. Extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, concealing cloud power. Extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, concealing cloud power. Song Jifan shook his head and said, it's a pity that this technique was lost. Only some superficial knowledge was passed down. The first 2 levels became the cloud-slashing power. That's only 2 levels. How strong can it be? Lu Jun said. Song Jifan said, how strong do you think the first 2 levels of the sacrificial divine power are? Of course it's very strong. Lu Jun said in his heart. That's exactly it. Song Jifan shook his head and said, so, don't underestimate the cloud-slashing power. Bailina was also a very lucky person to be able to obtain the cloud-slashing power. This kind of person is very useful and can easily succeed. His luck is good enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't have met us. Lu Jun laughed and said, he wouldn't have been recognized by the bishop. You have to learn more from him in the future. Don't always go against him, Song Jifan said. Yes. Lu Jun quickly agreed and then said, but Bishop, I really can't help it. Whenever I see him taking advantage of his seniority, I can't help but get angry. You. Song Jifan shook his head and laughed. After Chu Li returned to Chongming Town, he took a few turns and entered a small alley. Then, he disappeared in a flash and appeared in the backyard of King An's imperial residence. He saw Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi. The 2 women were dressed in snow-white clothes. One was cultivating while the other was reading. Xiao Qi was reading. She no longer needed to cultivate the regal sword scripture. She did not even need to cultivate anymore. She only needed to cultivate her heart. She looked like a person who did not know martial arts. Xiao Shi, on the other hand, was slowly practicing a body-nourishing fist technique. It was taught by Chu Li and could activate one's blood and vitality. It was very helpful for her Tianxin technique. What's wrong? Xiao Qi put down the scroll and looked at him. She frowned and asked, is something wrong? She was very sharp now. She could tell that Chu Li was serious. It was different from his usual carefree and calm demeanor. Something important must have happened. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Xiao Shi scoffed. I heard that Sun Mingwei became an enlightened master. Chu Li nodded and smiled. Second sister, how's Li Xinghe lately? Xiao Shi pouted her red lips. He's like a playboy. He's fooling around in Fairy's capital all day long. I don't know what he's busy with. Chuli said, let him come. Xiaoshi nodded and waved her hand. Lu Su walked out of the backyard gracefully to pass on the order. Chuli knew that Li Xinghe was not in the residence. Even outside of the omniscient mirror, it was obvious that he was not in Fairy's capital. Hence, he did not use his secret skill to sense his location. After about an hour, Li Xinghe walked into the backyard in a blue tunic. He gave a fist salute and greeted Chuli. Chuli sat by the stone table and pointed. When Li Xinghe sat opposite him, Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi had already left. Brother Li, there's something I don't understand, Chuli said. Please speak, head chief, Li Xinghe said seriously. Chuli said, did Stargazing Pavilion predict the appearance of the Longevity Church? The Longevity Church has appeared? Li Xinghe's expression turned serious. Chuli smiled. It seems like you guys have a well-deserved reputation. Yes. Li Xinghe nodded seriously. 200 years ago, a grandmaster peeked into the heavenly mystery for the last time before his death. He saw the appearance of the Longevity Church. Chuli asked, what was the result? Not good. Li Xinghe frowned. The Longevity Church is not to be underestimated. I advise you to avoid them, head chief. If that's the case, they're very powerful. Chuli asked. Li Xinghe nodded slowly. They're much more powerful than I imagined. Then where did you see their headquarters? Chuli asked. Li Xinghe was stunned. He quickly said, could it be that you're planning to break into the headquarters yourself, head chief? You mustn't. No matter how powerful you are, you won't be able to break into the headquarters. Chuli sighed. Am I supposed to just watch? A wise man submits to circumstances. Li Xinghe said, why must you go against the trend, head chief? Circumstances create heroes. A hero should take advantage of the situation. Chapter 3469. Li Xinghe looked at him quietly. Chuli pondered for a moment and lifted his head. Does the Stargazing Pavilion have any thoughts? The Stargazing Pavilion is only a bystander of fate, not a disruptor. Li Xinghe shook his head. We won't interfere with the path of fate because we can't change it. This is a lesson learned by the ancestors of the Stargazing Pavilion. Chuli smiled. What's fate? It's just a possibility. The world is ever-changing. A slight change can change the entire fate. This is the root of fate. Doesn't the Stargazing Pavilion want to take a gamble? No. Li Xinghe shook his head. Chuli smiled. I think you do. Li Xinghe frowned. What orders do you have, head chief? Chuli said, you're a smart man. Everyone in the Stargazing Pavilion is decisive. Footsteps were heard. A tall elder with a purple face glided over. He stood behind a fence and closed fist saluted. Are you Commander Song from the Longevity faction? Song Jifan replied, yes. I'm the protector of the public house, Zhengming. I'm here to deliver a letter under the orders of a chief. The purple-faced elder took out a large invitation from his bosom and flicked it lightly. It slowly floated in front of Song Jifan. Chuli took it and shook it lightly before handing it to Song Jifan. Song Jifan nodded in satisfaction. Lu Jun cursed in his heart. This old man is really quick. Song Jifan opened the invitation and said, all right, I agree. Tell him that I'll come back in a month. Yes. Zhengming closed fist saluted. He turned around and looked at Chuli. Is this Bailey Na who injured our protector? Chuli closed fist saluted. That's me. Very well. Zhengming nodded slowly. The High Duke's public house will remember this. He then looked at Lu Jun and said, is this the young Master Lu who bribed our protector with 10,000 taels of silver for a piece of information? Lu Jun's face turned gloomy. Zhengming nodded. Thank you for the silver, young Master Lu. The protector reported in advance and was ordered to leak the information to you. The people from the High Duke's public house are not that easily bribed. Goodbye. He then turned and glided away, not giving Song Jifan a chance to react. Chuli stared at Zhengming's receding silhouette with a solemn expression. Lu Jun's handsome face flushed red as he glared at Zhengming's back and said hatefully, Cult Master, why don't we take him down? Envoys are not beheaded in a war between two countries. Song Jifan shook his head and said, "Ignore it. How hateful." Lu Jun slammed his palm on the stone table. Bang! A crack appeared on the stone table. Chuli scoffed. "Why are you venting your anger on my desk?" Lu Jun glared at him. "You must be very proud, aren't you, Bailey?" Chuli looked at Song Jifan. "Bishop, Chu Li's invitation? Letter of challenge." Song Jifan shook his head and said with a smile, "He's trying to stall for time. He wants to decide who's better after he finishes his closed-door training a month later. If he loses, he'll return the heaven-killing sword. If he wins, he won't return the heaven-killing sword." Chuli said, "Bishop, what's so important about this heaven-regaining sword that you value it so much?" Lu Jun snorted. "This is the ancestor's sword." Chuli shook his head and said, "Bishop is so wise and powerful. Why would you go to war over the ancestor's sword? There must be an inside story, right?" His face was full of curiosity, and he did not hide it at all. This was the only way he could hide it from Song Jifan. Song Jifan threw the letter of challenge on the stone table and said plainly, "This sword is really important. Is there a secret?" Chuli asked curiously. "Or is it hiding some kind of divine art?" Hee. Song Jifan laughed. "You're thinking too much." Chuli put on an extremely curious expression. "Please enlighten me, Bishop. There's no harm in telling you." Song Jifan said, "This sword was forged by the ancestor himself. Others can't unleash its power. It's a waste in Chu Li's hands. It's better for me to have it." "Is it because of the bloodline?" Chuli asked. Chapter 3470. Chuli frowned. "Is that because of the sword manipulation technique?" "That's right." Song Jifan nodded. "Without the sword manipulation technique, the regal sky sword is only sharper, but its power is less than half. In Chuli's hands, it's just a precious sword that can cut through iron like mud. In my hands, it'll be even stronger. Then we really have to take it." Chuli gasped in admiration. Chuli's been very proud of himself recently. He's like the sun in the sky. If you can defeat him, you'll naturally become famous. Everyone in the world will know about you, and the Longevity Church will also raise its banner. "What do you mean, raise our flag?" Lu Jun snorted. "That sounds so bad." Chu Li smiled. "Then you really want to wait a month?" "I want Chu Li to be convinced." "I don't mind waiting for a month," Song Jifan said. "I've waited for more than 1,000 years. One more month won't make a difference." Chu Li said, "Has your lifespan reached 1,000 years?" "Huh." Lu Jun laughed. "My lifespan is about the same as Chu Li's. Why are you looking at me like that?" Chu Li chuckled. "You're calm and collected. I thought you were an old man who had experienced the vicissitudes of life, or even older than me. I also heard that you're cultivating the ageless longevity technique. You might be able to stay young forever. That's why I made this guess." "You're smart." Song Jifan shook his head and smiled. "Cultivating the ageless longevity technique does make me look young forever. I'll keep this look even if I'm 100 or 200 years old." Chu Li exclaimed, "If I cultivate the ageless longevity technique now, is it too late?" "Of course it's too late," Song Jifan nodded. Chu Li said, "Then how about I join the Church of Longevity?" "It's not that easy to become a disciple of the Church of Longevity." Lu Jun scoffed. "You'll need to go through many tests. You're not qualified yet. You haven't contributed much to the church." Chu Li smiled. "Then how much do I have to contribute to get into the church?" "If it's a big contribution, just one." Lu Jun said. "But if it's a small contribution, it depends on the situation. Not less than 8 or 10. Fortunately, you're a grandmaster. It's easier than the average disciple." Chu Li said, "You must give me a chance to contribute. I want to join the church." Song Jifan smiled and nodded. He was proud of himself. Bailey Na was so arrogant and reserved in the beginning, but now he could not wait to join the Chongshin sect. Unfortunately, the disciples of the Chongshin sect were carefully selected, and all of them were outstanding talents. They were different from the 4 ministers. Joining the sect meant becoming a true family. Guest elders were just companions. Lu Jun said, "Cult master, isn't he too old?" "It's all right," Song Jifan said. "As long as I cultivate the ageless longevity technique, I'll be able to recover to my peak." Can it really be restored to its peak? Chu Li's eyes widened. It's a piece of cake, Lu Jun said proudly. Chu Li hurriedly replied, All right then, what other instructions do you have for me, Bishop? Then you go with little Lu to send a letter, Song Jifan muttered. All right, Chu Li answered without hesitation. Lu Jun said, Cult Master, I could do it myself. One more person is good. Song Jifan said, We don't know what the Divine Blood Church has become. You're too impatient. Bailey Na will be in charge of this matter. Cult Master. Lu Jun's face turned red. I'm just delivering a letter. How can I mess it up? Song Jifan looked at him faintly. Yes. Lu Jun closed fist saluted. Song Jifan took out a letter from his pocket and passed it to Chu Li. This is a letter for the Divine Blood Church. Go with little Lu and personally deliver it to Huang Tianhe. Yes. Chu Li took it without hesitation. Do I need him to reply? It depends on him, Song Jifan said. After you go, take a closer look at his expression. Chu Li hesitated for a moment before saying, Cult Master, what's our relationship with Huang Tianhe? The Divine Blood Church was originally a branch of the Church of Longevity. It's not called the Divine Blood Church, but the Temple of the Blood God. Song Jifan said, Later on, we decided to hide from the world, but there were disagreements within the church. The people from the Temple of the Blood God were hot-blooded and hot-tempered. They were unwilling to submit, so they left and established the Divine Blood Church. Chu Li was surprised. The Divine Blood Church is a branch of the Church of Longevity? Now you know how powerful we are, Lu Jun said proudly. Chu Li sighed and said, I never thought it would be like this. But after more than 1,000 years, the Divine Blood Church has already gained a firm foothold and is steadily becoming one of the 8 major sects in the Fu dynasty. No one knows if they still acknowledge their origins or if they want to return to the main church, Song Jifan said. I should have gone there myself. Chu Li quickly shook his head. You can't act rashly, Cult Master. Once you go there yourself, there will be no turning back. That's right. Song Jifan nodded in satisfaction. In terms of worldly wisdom and strategies, Lu Jun was definitely not as good as Bailey Na. If he wanted to take on a big responsibility, he still needed to hone his skills. At the moment, it seemed that Bailey Na was more convenient to use. Chu Li said, All right, I will test him. Huang Tianhe is also a cunning person, Song Jifan said. You don't have to ask for too much. Just mention my battle with Chu Li. Chu Li fist saluted and said solemnly, Don't worry, Cult Master. I will be careful. That's good. Song Jifan nodded. Young Lu, you must respect Bailey Na along the way. You cannot make decisions on your own. Yes, Lu Jun said helplessly. I will obey Cult Master's orders. Go. Song Jifan waved his hand. Chu Li carefully put the letter in his pocket, turned around, and strode away. Lu Jun followed closely behind him. In the early morning, Chu Li and Lu Jun were hurrying on their way. Lu Jun scoffed. Although the cult master had instructed him to listen to Bailey Na, he did not have to listen to him unless it was a big matter. Bailey Na was only a foreign minister. His status was much lower than Lu Jun's. It was still uncertain if he could enter the cult in the future. Bailey Na, don't be so smug. Although my light body technique is not as good as yours, if we really fight, I can take on 2 of you. Lu Jun scoffed. His handsome face was red, and he was panting. The 2 of them secretly competed with their light body technique. After running for an entire night, Lu Jun was so tired that he was dizzy and exhausted. He could not hold on any longer. However, even if he could not hold on any longer, he would not admit defeat verbally. Chu Li shook his head. Don't think that you're the only one who knows the sacrificial divine power. I know it too. Ha! Lu Jun laughed and suddenly coughed violently. Chu Li said, Energy comes from infinity, and infinity comes from yin and yang. Yin energy enters the lungs, and yang energy enters the kidneys. When yin and yang are combined, energy will multiply. He recited the first 10 verses of the sacrificial formula. Lu Jun looked at him in surprise. Chu Li's omniscient mirror stared at Lu Jun's mind. Although Lu Jun's cultivation level was high, he could not block the omniscient mirror's prying. Chu Li said proudly, This is the sacrificial divine power, right? How do you know this? Lu Jun asked. I got it by accident. Chu said, I've always been lucky. Haha, that's rare. Lu Jun shook his head and said proudly, this is not the sacrificial divine power. It's just a small part of it. Its power is far from it. Chu said, which part is wrong? The omniscient mirror stared at Lu Jun's mind, trying to find out the sacrificial divine power's incantation. Once he obtained the sacrificial divine power, he would have the power to fight back against Song Jifan. He had set a deadline of a month because he wanted to obtain and cultivate the sacrificial divine power within a month. Chapter 3471. What you said is completely wrong. Lu Jun shook his head in disdain and said, what a mess. Piece together. You got a few sentences right, but it's all over the place. It simply cannot compare to the sacrificial divine art. Chu said, it's still very powerful. Once I've mastered it, I'll be able to unleash 3 times the power when I use it. 3 times? Lu Jun frowned as he sized him up. You're not fooling me, are you? Chu smiled. Why would I lie to you? If you don't believe me, why don't I show you? You really dare to use it? Lu Jun laughed. Chu said, although you'll suffer for a few days after using it, it's still worth it compared to losing your life. It's more important to stay alive. This is a supreme weapon. I've been training hard to master it. Haha, you're really treating this broken jar as an antique. Lu Jun shook his head disdainfully and said, this sacrificial formula is definitely a strand of hair plucked from the sacrificial divine art. It has changed its flavor and can't even compare to a strand of hair from the sacrificial divine art. Chu smiled. That might not be the case. Can you activate 3 times your power? Of course. Lu Jun snorted. I can now activate up to 5 times. Chu said, I'm not much worse than you. Far from it. Lu Jun curled his lips and said, do you know the consequences of using the sacrifice formula? Of course. Chu nodded. How can such a precious heart technique not come with a price? Isn't it just a short period of weakness? You can recover in 10 days. Do you really think you can recover? Lu Jun looked at him with pity. How many times have you used the sacrifice formula? More than 10 times, Chu replied. That's not bad. Lu Jun shook his head and said, let me tell you, the reason why you're so weak now is that you're old, but even a grandmaster who's older won't be this weak. Then I'll have to ask for your guidance. Chu gave a fist salute with a straight face. Lu Jun stroked his beard proudly. The other reason is the sacrifice formula. Chu was startled and thought about it. I had the same suspicion too, but I recovered quickly after the incident. It shouldn't be a problem for me to consume some of my essence, energy, and spirit, right? This is a very complicated matter. Lu Jun shook his head and said, I won't say the specific reason. You won't understand. Chu smiled and nodded. Lu Jun was more and more satisfied with his attitude. He smiled proudly and said, but you have to understand one thing. The sacrifice formula consumes other things besides spirit, energy, and spirit. This thing is causing you to age prematurely. I see. Chu quickly nodded. Then what exactly is this thing? How can we make up for it? It's not like there's no way to make up for it. Lu Jun said, moreover, the sacrificial technique is like this. Your sacrificial formula is a mess pieced together from all over the place. It must have been created by someone who didn't understand the sacrificial technique's mnemonic chant. The consequences will be even greater. Chu suddenly pretended to be out of breath. He took a deep breath and stopped. Sigh, I'm really getting old. I can't take it anymore. Let's go into the forest and rest. Sure. Lu Jun was even more satisfied with his tactfulness. He could not hold on any longer. If he continued to run, he would really have to use the sacrificial divine art. The two of them came to a small pavilion in the forest and sat down. The pavilion was for passers-by to rest their feet. It had weathered the wind and rain and was old and sturdy. The two of them sat in the pavilion, enjoying the gentle breeze. The morning breeze was very fresh. It was especially comfortable when it blew on their faces. What kind of consequences? Chu asked. Other than prematurely aging, Is there anything else? I haven't heard of anything else. Lu Jun shook his head. Maybe it'll be a little painful before death. Chu Li stared at him eagerly. Is there any way to make up for it? Lu Jun coughed softly. The ageless longevity technique. As long as you cultivate the ageless longevity technique, the flaws of the sacrificial divine art will be made up for. There will be no future consequences. That's why you guys are actually quite pitiful. Forget about making up for it. Even if there are flaws, there's nothing you can do because the sacrificial divine art is not taught to outsiders. Chu Li nodded. If that's the case, I can't use the sacrificial formula anymore. Using it will make you die faster and age faster. Lu Jun scoffed. Don't you feel it? Chu Li sighed. It can't be helped, but there's hope now. Then do your job well. Lu Jun said. As long as you become a disciple, you'll be able to cultivate the sacrificial divine art. Its power will be stronger and its flaws will be smaller. You can also cultivate the ageless longevity technique to make up for it. You have to know that the sacrificial divine art is very difficult to cultivate. Chu Li asked, Young Lu, which level have you cultivated? The sacrificial divine art has a total of 10 levels. Lu Jun scoffed. It's called a divine art. It's not just a rumor. Mastering one level will double your power. Mastering the second level will triple your power. Mastering the 10th level will triple your power. Double or even 10 times the power of the previous level. Chu Li asked. Lu Jun smiled. How can there be such a good thing? You don't usually use the sacrificial divine art. Once you use it, your power will multiply according to your original cultivation level. So, young Lu, which level are you at? Chu Li asked. 5th level. Lu Jun raised his hand and proudly said, I'm training towards the 6th level. If I could be a genius like the bishop and reach the 10th level, I'll be invincible. Chu Li smiled. How can I be invincible? No matter how powerful a grandmaster is, they can't beat an enlightened master. We can't beat them, but the bishop can, Lu Jun said proudly. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Is it because of the sky-killing sword? Lu Jun looked at him and nodded. You're really smart. Chu Li could already see in his mind that the sky-killing sword was the key to killing an enlightened master. If he could get the sky-killing sword, it would not be difficult for Song Jifan to kill an enlightened master. If he could not get the sky-killing sword, he would not be able to kill an enlightened master. Chu Li decided that he must not let Song Jifan get the sky-killing sword. Even if he lost, he had to act shamelessly. Chu Li smiled. So the sky-killing sword is the key. If that's the case, the bishop is really patient. If it was me, I would have sneaked into the High Duke's public house and stolen the sky-killing sword. Why would I compete with you? That's right. Lu Jun nodded. Chu Li's expression changed. He saw Song Jifan's plan in Lu Jun's mind. He really wanted to steal the sky-killing sword. He had been staying outside Chongming Town to send people to find out the internal situation of the High Duke's public house. He did not act rashly. Chu Li could not help but sigh. Song Jifan had such a cultivation level at such a young age and such a high position. He did not act rashly like a young man. Instead, he was unusually cautious like a veteran. The more experienced one was in the martial world, the more timid they became. Song Jifan did not seem to be very courageous. He was extremely cautious and would not act unless he was 100% confident. Such a person would be a strong opponent. Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. Young Lu, please give me some pointers. What's wrong with my sacrificial formula? Is that okay? I'll reward you handsomely. I'll listen to you for this mission. Really? Lu Jun asked. Chu Li nodded. It's nothing. You're the boss. All right. Recite the formula. I'll listen to you. Lu Jun nodded in satisfaction. Chu Li recited the sacrificial formula in one breath. Then he looked at the sacrificial divine powers formula in Lu Jun's mind. Chapter 3472. After Chu Li quickly recited the incantation, he immediately recited it again. Lu Jun pondered and compared it to Chu Li's sacrificial technique. In the end, he nodded and memorized it. Chu Li's sacrificial technique was not complicated. In fact, it was very simple. Lu Jun shook his head after listening. I really don't know who created this incantation. I think I've only heard of the first 2 levels of the sacrificial technique. The incantations are all within the first 2 levels. Chu Li was shocked. Only the first 2 levels. He had already seen the first 5 levels of the sacrificial technique. As expected, it was exquisite. The further one went, the harder it was to cultivate. Lu Jun frowned. Can you really activate 3 times the power? Yes, it's true. Chu Li nodded. I don't have to lie to you, do I? Lu Jun sighed. Looks like I've underestimated the person who created this sacrificial technique. To be able to use the first 2 levels of the incantation to create a sacrificial technique that can activate 3 times the power. Although it's a mess, it's not to be underestimated. However, the consequences will be greater. If you use it a few more times, you'll probably lose your life. Chu Li said, if that's the case, there's room for improvement in the sacrificial technique. If I cultivate according to this technique, will I be able to increase its power? That's true. Lu Jun nodded. However, the reason why divine techniques are called divine techniques is because they're beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Trying to change the heart technique without careful consideration is courting death. You might not be able to change it for the rest of your life. You might even end up going mad. Yes, Chu Li said. That's why I still want to learn the sacrificial technique. That depends on your performance. Lu Jun smiled. Try to enter the church as soon as possible. Otherwise, you won't be able to live for long. Chu Li's expression changed slightly. He nodded slowly. So this is considered a merit? It's just a small merit, Lu Jun said. Of course, if you could see what ordinary people can't and receive praise from the bishop, you might be able to make a great contribution too. Chu Li was instantly energized. He chuckled. I don't have any other skills, but I'm quite good at reading people. I'll definitely be able to see through Huang Tian's thoughts. That's great, Lu Jun said. After that, the 2 of them got along much better. Chu Li would ask Lu Jun about everything, which made Lu Jun feel like ordering him around. 4 days later, the 2 of them arrived at the Fu Dynasty's Divine Blood Church. During this period of time, Chu Li went back twice and saw that Li Meng was still chanting. She seemed to have made great progress in her chanting, which made him very satisfied. Although this little girl had a carefree temperament, she knew how to work hard, which meant that she could be saved. Then, using Chu Li's body, he rode on the white crane and left the public house. Everyone could see it. This was to dispel Song Jifan's wishful thinking and prevent him from entering the public house to steal the sword. The 2 of them arrived at the foot of the mountain of the Divine Blood Church. The entire Divine Blood Church was shrouded in a thick fog. Nothing could be seen, not even the mountains and valleys. It should be here. Lu Jun nodded and shouted. Lu Jun of the Changshan sect, Bailey Na, would like to meet Huang Tian and Cult Master Huang. His cultivation level was high enough that his voice reverberated in the sky and echoed throughout the entire Divine Blood Church. After a short while, 2 violet-clothed disciples appeared from within the dense fog and floated down before the 2 of them. They cupped their fists and said, Young masters, my humble sect has already sealed itself off from the world and won't participate in the affairs of the secular world. Please forgive us. Please inform Cult Master Huang that we're the disciples of the Changshan sect, Lu Jun said in a deep voice. He was not angry, but he was dignified. He glared at the 2 disciples of the Divine Blood Church. The 2 disciples of the Divine Blood Church frowned and shook their heads. Whether it's the Changshan sect or other sects, our sect will not meet them. The cult master has already isolated himself to comprehend martial arts. He can't meet any outsiders. Chu Li cupped his fists and said, Young masters, is the cult master injured? Of course not. The 2 shook their heads and frowned at Chu Li. Chu Li said, Why did I hear that the cult master has been possessed by demons? Nonsense. The 2's faces darkened, and they said coldly, Forgive me for not sending you off. Chu Li smiled and said, If he's really not injured, it won't take much time for him to meet us. Hee. Forgive us for not being able to make an exception. This is a dead rule. The 2 shook their heads and stared at Chu Li in an unfriendly manner. Chu Li said, The rumor in the martial arts world might be true. We were skeptical at first, but it's confirmed now. Cult Master Huang has been severely injured. The Church of the Divine Blood is now vulnerable. Shut up. The two's faces changed, and they shouted, "Don't blame us for being rude if you continue to talk nonsense. Then let's meet Cult Master Huang." Chuli shook his head and said, "Our sect is not as unknown as you think. It's just that we've been in seclusion back then, so outsiders don't know about us." The two from the Changshan sect curled their lips. Chuli said, "If Cult Master Huang hears about the Changshan sect, he'll definitely meet us without hesitation. If you don't believe me, let's bet." "No." The two shook their heads. "We won't report to the cult master." Lu Jun said impatiently, "Why bother? Just beat them up, and Huang Tianhe will naturally come out to meet us." Chuli sighed and said, "Brother Lu, you can't do this. We're here, and we can't even go in to meet him. It's only right and proper to beat them up." Lu Jun scoffed. Chuli said, "They're brothers in the sect after all. If we really make a big fuss, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to meet them in the future." That's true." Lu Jun pondered for a while and slowly nodded. He had thought too simply. He only thought that beating them up would allure Huang Tianhe, and he would naturally come and meet them. He did not think about how they would interact in the future. If Huang Tianhe really joined the Changshan sect, he would probably be the temple master of the Temple of Blood with a high position and power. He really could not provoke him too much. When he thought about this, he gained some respect for Chuli. Chuli was indeed a sly and cunning person. He thought about everything thoroughly and did not act on impulse. He was indeed a little too inexperienced. Chuli smiled and said, "If it really doesn't work, it's not too late to beat them up." "All right, we'll do as you say." Lu Jun nodded. Chuli turned his head and fist saluted the two Church of Divine Blood disciples. "Both of you heard it. If we really don't report, we'll definitely beat them up. That will alert Cult Master Huang, and your beating will be in vain. How about this? We have a secret about Chuli. I'm sure Cult Master Huang will be very interested in it." "What news?" The two of them were doubtful. Chuli said, "Well, of course, we can't tell you about this. We have to meet Cult Master Huang." "Secret news?" The two of them frowned and asked. Chuli nodded with certainty. "It's definitely a secret. If we can seize the opportunity, we can kill him." "All right." The two Church of Divine Blood disciples looked at each other and exchanged a few glances before finally nodding. "All right then, let's go up and report." The two of them scoffed. They were still a little indignant. Ever since the Church of Divine Blood sealed themselves, they were looked down upon by the world. In the past, who would dare to come over and cause trouble? Chuli Fist saluted and smiled. "Thank you for making an exception." Lu Jun watched the two of them go into the thick fog and smiled. "It's really easy to see the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little devil. I just want to see Huang Tianhe, and I have to suffer such difficulties. It's really annoying." Chuli smiled. The Church of Divine Blood has been defeated by Chuli. When they hear news about Chuli, their eyes are all red. They must be able to lure Huang Tianhe here. "You really have a lot of wicked ideas." Lu Jun laughed. Chapter 3473. After a while, the thick fog in front of them suddenly surged violently. Then, a person stood in front of them as if he had been standing there all along. It was only revealed after the thick fog dissipated. Chuli recognized him at first glance. It was the bishop of the Church of the Divine Blood, Huang Tianhe. "I'm Huang Tianhe," Huang Tianhe said in a deep voice. He glanced at the two of them as if he was struck by lightning. Chuli and Lu Jun fist saluted. Lu Jun opened his eyes wide and said in a domineering manner, "I'm Lu Jun from the Church of Longevity. I'm here to deliver a letter to you under the orders of the bishop." As he spoke, he took out the letter and tossed it to Huang Tianhe. The letter was rolled to Huang Tianhe by an invisible force. He tore open the envelope and opened the letter. Huang Tianhe was already prepared for the arrival of the Church of Longevity's disciples when he heard their report earlier. Now that he read the letter again, he was still frowning. His eyes were bright like lightning. Lu Jun stared at him. Huang Tianhe had a treasure weapon that could hide his omniscient mirror. As a church leader, It was not surprising for him to have such a treasure. He did not have to look to know Huang Tianhe's reluctance. After a while, Huang Tianhe looked up at Chu Li and said, "Where's the token?" Chu Li smiled. "Bishop Huang, you already know the answer. Why would you need a token? The seal on the letter has already revealed our identity." "I don't recognize this. I only recognize the token." Huang Tianhe shook his head. "The letter can be imitated, but the token can't. I won't admit that you're from the Church of Longevity until I see the real token." Chu Li looked at Lu Jun. Lu Jun snorted and took out an iron ring from his bosom. He gently put it on his index finger and lightly said, "Is this a keepsake? I want to see the bishop's token." Huang Tianhe shook his head. Lu Jun said, "So, you don't want to admit that you're the bishop's token?" "Of course." Huang Tianhe said, "I don't believe it based on the letter alone. If it's just an ordinary Church of Longevity's disciple pretending to be the bishop, I'll be a joke." "All right, you're cautious." Lu Jun kept the iron ring and took out a green jade ring. He tossed it to him. Huang Tianhe reached out his hand and took the jasper ring. He placed it in front of his eyes and looked at it under the sunlight for a while before he slowly nodded. "It's indeed the cult leader's jade ring. All right, please go up the mountain and tell me what you want to say." Lu Jun stretched out his hand and said, "Give it back." Huang Tianhe tossed it lightly. Lu Jun quickly caught it. Chu Li frowned and pondered. It seemed like Huang Tianhe had the intention to be independent and had no intention of joining the Longevity Church at all. It was obvious that he was not optimistic about the Longevity Church's re-establishment. The two of them followed him into the thick fog. Using their qing gong, they finally arrived at a large hall at the top of a mountain. There were no guards in the hall, and only Huang Tianhe sat on a praying mat. He sat down and pointed. Chu Li and Lu Jun sat on two cattail hassocks opposite them and looked around the basilica. It was indeed deserted. "This is my residence. Outsiders are not allowed to enter." Huang Tianhe explained, "I don't know what's going on with the Changshan denomination. We are on the same side. I can't help but be concerned. The sect master has come out and rebuilt the Changshan sect." Lu Jun said, "Under the wise leadership of the sect master, the Longevity Church will reign supreme in the martial arts world again, and no one will be able to defeat it." "How many followers do we have now?" Huang Tianhe curled his lips and asked, "Why haven't I heard of it before?" "The sect master will fight Chu Li in a month's time. By then, he will amaze the world," Lu Jun said. "By then, there will be more people who want to join the church." "Anyone can join the church?" Huang Tianhe frowned. "Of course not." Lu Jun said, "You should know the rules of the church, Sect Master Huang. Joining the church is very harsh. There are many tests and all kinds of meritorious deeds. However, our church has so many divine arts and studies. We will definitely attract many grandmasters to join us." "The antique studies of the church have not been lost?" Huang Tianhe's expression changed. "Of course," Lu Jun said proudly. "The martial arts of the Changshan cult have been preserved perfectly. We have been cultivating hard all these years. Especially now that the cult master has mastered the divine technique, he can suppress all the experts and even kill deities. According to the will of the patriarch, it is the time for the Changshan cult to rise again. Zhaozhu's divine skill has reached the great success stage," Huang Tianhe said. "He has successfully cultivated the ageless longevity technique." "Yes." Lu Jun nodded proudly and smiled. "Have you thought it through, Cult Master Huang? Do you want to return to the cult and inherit the position of Hall Master?" "Let me think about it," Huang Tianhe said. Lu Jun snorted. "You can naturally consider it, but time is limited. When the time comes, I'm afraid that even if you want to return to the sect, you might not have the chance." Huang Tianhe smiled and nodded. "Of course I understand." Since that's the case, then we'll take our leave," Lu Jun said with a snort. "Since the two of you have come, stay for a few more days," Huang Tianhe said. "There's no need," Lu Jun said. "Cult Master Huang might not agree, but there are others who have. I still have to visit a few other clans. Farewell. Have a safe journey." Huang Tianhe closed fist saluted. He personally sent the two of them down the mountain, then closed fist saluted to bid farewell, turned around, and disappeared into the thick fog. Lu Jun glared at the direction where he disappeared. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Chu Li said, Cult Master Huang is proud and arrogant. He's not willing to be under anyone, so it'll be very difficult for him to return to the church. You mean he doesn't want to agree? Lu Jun asked. Chu Li shook his head. He definitely won't agree. Everything was just half-hearted. He's just afraid that we'll go against the Church of the Divine Blood. The Church of the Divine Blood is not in a good situation now. He could see that Huang Tianhe was moved. It seemed that Huang Tianhe hated him very much. It was reasonable when he thought about it. Chu Li killed his disciple and defeated him, forcing him to seal the mountain. There was indeed a blood feud between them. It could be seen that Huang Tianhe had improved a lot during this period, but it was still far from his own improvement. Huang Tianhe was far from being a match for him. If they fought again, he would lose even more miserably. What a cunning fellow. Lu Jun scoffed. I thought he was moved. Chu Li said, logically speaking, he was utterly defeated by Chu Li. The Church of the Divine Blood has sealed the mountain, so he'll definitely think of ways to take revenge. When he sees the Church of the Longevity appear, he'll definitely pounce on us regardless and learn the divine arts and antique studies. That's right. Lu Jun nodded. That's what the Church of the Divine Blood thinks too. Chu Li sighed. Between revenge and power, it seems that Huang Tianhe has chosen the latter. He'd rather not have his revenge than lose his position as the Church of the Divine Blood. He doesn't want to have someone watching over him. What an ungrateful fellow. Does he really think he can escape? Lu Jun curled his lips and sneered. The Church of the Divine Blood needs strength now. Once he gains a firm foothold and defeats Chu Li, he'll be the first target. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. It can't be. He's one of us after all. We can't forgive a traitor like him. Otherwise, everyone will think of getting lucky. Lu Jun scoffed. Our church has strict rules, and the punishment for traitors is the heaviest. Chu Li sighed. Could it be that he knows about the rules and knows that he won't have a good ending even if he returns to the church? So he refused? If he really agrees to return to the church, will he still be the church leader? It'll be difficult. Lu Jun shook his head. Chu Li nodded slowly. I see. He's a smart person and he's greedy for power. Naturally, he won't agree. Do we have other branches? Chapter 3474. Heavenly King Palace. Chu Li was surprised. He suddenly had a guess. Could it be that the Heavenly King's palm and the supreme Heavenly King technique that he cultivated were both passed down by the Heavenly King Palace? The Heavenly King palm you used is the ultimate technique of the Heavenly King Palace. Lu Jun nodded and said, however, the Heavenly King Hall has not been passed down. Like our Changshan sect, it is hidden in the dark. Chu Li frowned. Could it be that the Heavenly King Palace still has the complete inheritance of the Heavenly King palm? Definitely. Lu Jun nodded. But I don't know if the Heavenly King Palace still exists. I'm afraid not. Chu Li shook his head. I obtained the Heavenly King palm by chance. It wasn't passed down by the Heavenly King Palace. It would be a pity if we can't find it. Lu Jun sighed. The Heaven King Hall is slightly more powerful than the Blood God Hall. It's the most powerful hall out of the 5 halls. Sigh. You can't be thinking that I'm the successor of the Heaven King Palace, right? Chu Li laughed. Lu Jun said, it would be better if you were really from the Heavenly King Hall. You wouldn't have to spend so much effort, and you could just join the cult. Chu Li nodded. What a pity. As the two of them spoke, they used their light body technique and hurried back. When they arrived at a forest, Chu Li suddenly stopped and looked around with a serious expression. What's wrong? Lu Jun asked. Chu Li shook his head. It feels like there's a tail behind us. Tail? Is there someone following us? Lu Jun's expression changed slightly. Chu Li nodded slowly and said, if my senses are not wrong, there is indeed someone following us. Damn it. Lu Jun's face darkened. Chu Li looked at him and said, do you also think that it's the Church of the Divine Blood? Who else could it be if not them? Lu Jun clenched his teeth and snorted. It seems like he is indeed cunning. He knows that if he doesn't join the cult, he will definitely be taught a lesson. Now, it's better to strike first. Chu Li pondered and asked, "What's in it for me?" He could make an excuse that he didn't receive the letter. Lu Jun snorted. Chu Li shook his head. It shouldn't be that simple. As they were talking, Chu Li frowned and shook his head. This feeling has disappeared again. Lu Jun didn't feel anything. He took a deep breath and did not suspect that Chu Li was lying. There was no need for him to lie at all. Chu Li said, "Looks like we'll have to change our tracks." "How?" Lu Jun asked. Chu Li shook his head. "Brother Lu, you decide." "You decide. Then let's not take the original path. Let's take a detour before going back." Lu Jun muttered, "In case we disturb the bishop, he's currently recuperating his spirit in preparation for the battle with Chu Li. He can't be disturbed." Chu Li smiled. "Bishop will definitely win. What's there to prepare? That's different." Lu Jun shook his head and said, "Cult Master has always been cautious and steady in the way he does things. Before the duel, he will definitely make meticulous preparations to ensure that nothing goes wrong. He will definitely not be careless just because he can win for sure." "The bishop is indeed the bishop," Chu Li exclaimed in admiration. "This steadiness is reassuring." "Of course." Lu Jun nodded proudly. "How about this? We'll circle around the Chiu dynasty and see if they'll still follow us." Chu Li nodded. "All right, we'll do as Brother Lu says." The two of them turned to the side and entered the Chiu dynasty directly. From the Chiu dynasty, they entered the Li dynasty, and from the Li dynasty to the Ji dynasty. After taking such a big detour, they decided to take their time on their journey. 3 days later, at night, the two of them were sitting cross-legged in a rundown temple. This rundown temple was located halfway up a hill and had been abandoned for a long time. Broken fences and dilapidated walls were filled with moss. Time had caused this temple to be abandoned. They had come here by chance, hoping to avoid the cold, so they found a place to meditate in the temple. Although it was true that their cultivation levels were both cold and hot, it was better to have a place to hide than to have none. At least, they could hide and avoid some disturbances. Chu Li was comprehending the sacrificial divine power. Through the past few days of comprehension and cultivation, he had already cultivated the art of self-sacrificial to the 5th level, which allowed him to unleash 5 times his cultivation base. This art of self-sacrificial was indeed beyond his imagination, and he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. As such, he yearned for the other 5 levels of the sacrificial divine power even more. If he could obtain the complete heart technique and cultivate it to 10 times his cultivation level, he might not lose to Song Jifan again. A bright moon hung on the branches, and its clear light shone outside the temple. Chu Li suddenly opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "Someone's here." A group of men in black slowly entered the temple. They were all wrapped in black, revealing only their faces. Each of them had a pair of bright eyes that stared at them as if they were looking at dead people. "Who are you?" Lu Jun stood up with a leap. "Are you disciples of the longevity sect?" One of the men in black shouted with a hoarse voice. There were a total of 15 of them, and they were all grandmasters. Lu Jun's expression was solemn. To be able to send 15 grandmasters at once, it seemed like Huang Tianhe could not help but make a move. He shouted, "The one with the surname Huang, how dare you? Do you really want to kill us? Are you disciples of the longevity sect?" The man in black said in a low voice, "If not, we'll let you go." "Umph, we are disciples of the longevity sect." Lu Jun scoffed. "Where's Huang Tianhe?" "Ask him to come out." "I'll do it." The man in black had just raised his palm when he immediately shouted and slashed at them. The palm energy was turbulent and domineering, and it instantly hit Lu Jun. Lu Jun sneered, and with a bang, his body expanded. His clothes fluttered as if he was standing in a strong wind, and his hair fluttered nonstop. Then he turned into a shadow and shot at the 15 men in black. Chu Li said in a low voice, "You're monks, right?" The 15 men in black did not make a sound, and they split into 2 groups and pounced at Chu Li and Lu Jun. Although Lu Jun was young, he was powerful and imposing. 10 of them went to face him, and the other 5 pounced at Chu Li. Chu Li used the Heavenly King palm, but it was not as shocking as the one he usually used. He only used half of its power. When the palm was released, There was no light falling from the sky, and there was no sound of wind or clouds. Only a faint shadow flashed in front of the palm, and then hit the opponent in a flash. It was so fast that it could not be avoided. Bang! Bang, 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 bang. One by one, the men in black were sent flying. Chu Li's heavenly king palm was indestructible, and no one could escape from it. They were all sent flying one by one, and the 5 men in black were sent flying in the blink of an eye. Lu Jun used the sacrificial divine art, and his power suddenly increased by 5 times. Although his control wasn't as exquisite as before, he was able to crush the 10 men in black with just his strength and speed, like a wolf pouncing on a flock of sheep. In just a few breaths, the 2 of them stopped, and the ground was full of men in black. None of the 15 men in black were spared, and they were all knocked down. They could not move and could only stare at them with their burning eyes. Chu Li smiled. "Brother Lu, I think they're monks." "How can they be monks?" Lu Jun frowned and took off the headscarf of one of the men in black, revealing his shiny bald head. He looked at Chu Li in confusion. Chu Li shook his head. "How do they know about the Longevity Church?" "Everyone knows that the Longevity Church is going to rise again to take revenge on the descendants of Song Wuji," the middle-aged monk with a round face said calmly. Chu Li was stunned. "Which one of you is talking nonsense? It's better to believe that it's true than not. Everyone has the right to punish the remnants of the Longevity Church," the round-faced monk said in a low voice. Chu Li sighed. "Huang Tianhao, what a vicious mind." Chapter 3475. Very well. Very well. We haven't even made a move yet, but you've already made the first move. Lu Jun was so angry that his handsome face turned red. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's true that we have no intention of hurting the tiger, but the tiger wants to hurt us. Since you want to go against us, don't blame us for being ruthless." As he spoke, he raised his hand and was about to hit them. Chu Li hurriedly said, "Brother Lu, wait." Lu Jun turned his head and glared at him. Chu Li said, "It's better to report this matter to the bishop first." "What's there to report?" Lu Jun scoffed. "They want to kill us. Do you think we should just wait for them to kill us? If we let them go today, they'll continue to kill us tomorrow." Chu Li shook his head and said, "This matter is very important. It's better to let the bishop handle it. We just need to restrain them." "Restrain them?" Lu Jun frowned. Chu Li smiled and said, "We have a unique martial art in our church, right? Or can we directly summon the bishop here?" "Both," Lu Jun said. He trusted Chu Li very much now. This incident had proven Chu Li's judgment. The reason why these monks could find them was because Huang Tianhe sent someone to follow them and knew their whereabouts. Chu Li said, "I haven't asked who these people are. Since they're monks from the Qiu dynasty, they're monks from the Reincarnation Temple, right?" "I'm a disciple of the Reincarnation Temple." The monks sat up and pressed their palms together. "Namo Amitabha." "A bunch of blind bald donkeys." Lu Jun gritted his teeth. "All right, Reincarnation Temple, I'll remember it." Chu Li frowned and said softly, "The Reincarnation Temple is one of the 4 major sects of the Qiu dynasty. What's worse is that they have enlightened masters. Monk Xuanming is the imperial emperor of the Qiu dynasty. We can't be too ruthless. If Monk Luanming arrives, we won't be able to escape." "Monk Luanming." Lu Jun was silent and slowly nodded. "All right, we can only ask the bishop to come over." Chu Li nodded. He also wanted to test if Song Jifan had divine power to break through space. Lu Jun took out a small and delicate conch shell from his pocket. He put it near his mouth and gently blew on it before he put it on his ear. Chu Li smiled. "That's it?" "Yes." Lu Jun nodded. "Cult Master can hear it." Chu Li was surprised. "What kind of treasure is this?" "1,000-mile sound transmission snail," Lu Jun said. "It was left behind by an ancient strange beast after its death. With this snail, one could transmit sound transmission from 1,000 miles away." Chu Li exclaimed in admiration. "There's such an exotic beast. Spirit beasts are much more capable than you think. It's a pity that there are no more spirit beasts now." Lu Jun shook his head. "This kind of 1,000-mile sound transmitting snail is also extinct. It can't be found anymore. You can look for it at the 100,000 Hills, Chu Li said. Lu Jun snorted and said, "If you don't go to the 100,000 mountains to look for this 1,000-mile sound transmission conch, you're courting death." Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "Even with the bishop's martial arts, he can't break through the 100,000 hills. It won't work." Lu Jun shook his head. "Unless you reach Grandmaster's level." He suddenly waved his hand, indicating for her not to speak. Chu Li nodded to show that he understood. Chu Li heard Song Jifan's voice clearly. "What's the matter, sect leader?" Lu Jun said in a low voice. "Huang Tianhe is rebelling. Not only did he spread the news that the Changsheng Church is looking for the descendants of the enlightened masters who besieged Grandmaster, but he also sent people to follow us and leaked our whereabouts, leading to the monks of the Reincarnation Temple to hunt us down." As he spoke, his face turned red. The inner energy in his body surged into the 1,000-mile sound transmission snail and was devoured in the blink of an eye. Chu Li understood that this was similar to a rare treasure. It required enough inner energy to maintain. Without inner energy, it could not be used. Song Jifan was silent. He said lightly, "Reincarnation Temple? The Reincarnation Temple of Monk Luan Ming?" "Yes," Lu Jun said. "Let them go," Song Jifan said. Lu Jun hurriedly said, "But they are so hateful. Are we really going to let them go?" "Yes, let them go," Song Jifan said. Then the voices fell silent. Lu Jun let go of his hand. White steam rose from the top of his head. The inner energy consumed in this short period of time was far more than what it took to defeat 10 Reincarnation Temple monks. Chu Li looked at Lu Jun. Lu Jun gritted his teeth and carefully kept the 1,000-mile sound transmission snail. He glared at the monks on the ground. Chu Li said, "A little impatience spoils great plans. Let them be happy for a while." Lu Jun's eyes turned cold. He said in a low voice, "All right, let them go." Chu Li nodded. "Then let's find another place to rest." "Let's go," Lu Jun said. The two left the ruined temple and ran out of the forest. They wanted to shake off their pursuers. "We are now in the Reincarnation Temple's territory. Let's hurry and leave the Qiu dynasty first," Chu Li said. "All right." Lu Jun nodded and fell silent. It was as if he was a different person. His face was dark. Chu Li could see what he was thinking. He knew that he had suffered a blow. He originally thought that he would be invincible if he followed the bishop. With the bishop's powerful martial arts, he would be invincible as long as he obtained the Sky Splitter Sword. Even the leader of Goddess Attraction Mountain would not be a threat. However, he did not expect that everything would not go smoothly. First, he was injured by Chu Li. He was harder to deal with than expected. Then, he was rejected by Huang Tianhe. He even had the intention to kill him. He was chased by the Reincarnation Temple, but he did not dare to kill them. He could only let them go. He was sullen everywhere. There was nothing that went well for him. Namo Amitabha. A mighty Buddhist chant suddenly sounded in front of them. Two old monks suddenly appeared in the middle of the road in front of them. The moon was already high in the sky. The clear light shone on their heads, as if there was a layer of oil on them. Chu Li and Lu Jun stopped. "They are monks from the Reincarnation Temple," Chu Li said seriously. "It seems that they are not only ungrateful, but they are even worse. Brother Lu, it seems that we have to be ruthless. We can't disobey the bishop's orders." Lu Jun gritted his teeth and said with a gloomy face, "Don't take over. Just run." "Sai, that's the only way." Chu Li shook his head helplessly. The two turned around and ran after saying that. Namo Amitabha. Amidst the chanting, the two old monks appeared again and blocked their way. Lu Jun's body made a muffled sound. Then his body expanded. His clothes fluttered and his hair fluttered. He suddenly turned into a stream of light and shot to the right. He entered the forest. Chu Li also used the sacrifice spell and followed closely behind. The two of them ran in the woods in a sorry state, like flickering light and passing shadows. They ran for 100 miles in one breath and stopped in a valley. They let out a long sigh of relief. Just as they were about to speak, the chanting of Namo Amitabha rang in their ears again. The two old monks stood in front of them again and looked at them with a smile. Chu Li's face was solemn. The two old monks' cultivation level was really high. They had at least 300 years of cultivation. Lu Jun's face was pale. His eyes were like two balls of fire that were burning fiercely. Chu Li said, "Brother Lu, you go first. I'll hold him back. We can't escape. We can only fight." Lu Jun shook his head. He was no longer arrogant. He knew that even if he used the sacrifice spell, he would not be a match for the two old monks. He was afraid that he would die today. Chu Li lowered his voice. "They probably want to capture us alive to understand the details of the Chongqing Church. If we are captured by them, it will be a disgrace. We might as well die." Lu Jun said in a low voice. Chu Li said, "Don't be in such a hurry to die. The bishop will come and save us." Yes, Lu Jun was invigorated. He thought about the bishop's powerful martial arts. Since he said that the reincarnation temple was after them, the bishop was smart enough to guess that the reincarnation temple would not give up. He would definitely come and save them. Chapter 3476. Damn it, it's an enlightened master. Chu Li cursed under his breath. An enlightened master. Lu Jun stared at Monk Lun Ming, who was standing in the void. His eyes were bright and filled with a strong desire to fight. Even though he had used the self-sacrificial divine art and had no strength to fight anymore. This was the first time he encountered an enlightened master, so the battle intent in his heart burned like a raging fire. He wanted nothing more than to make a move right now and test out the power of an enlightened master. Monk Luan Ming's red frock fluttered gently under the moonlight, showing a natural and unrestrained temperament. He put his palms together and smiled. "Benefactors of the Changshan sect, please follow me back to the temple for a few days." Chu Li sighed and pretended to give up. He shook his head. "Why did Master Lun Ming come personally? We don't deserve it. The disciples of the longevity faction are not mediocre. I had to go personally." Monk Luan Ming smiled. "I still have to thank you for your kindness. You didn't kill my disciples." Sigh. Master Luan Ming is the host. "It's not that we didn't want to kill, we just didn't dare to." Chu Li shook his head. Hee, this almsgiver is an interesting person." Monk Luan Ming smiled amiably. Lu Jun said coldly, "Monk Luan Ming, I would like to see the power of an enlightened master. Watch out." He struck with his palm. Chu Li quickly said, "No." Just as he shouted, Monk Luan Ming waved his sleeves. Instantly, the force of his palm disappeared. He looked at Lu Jun calmly and sighed. "This young almsgiver has the intention to kill. It seems like you're not happy with me. But don't worry, as I thank you for not killing my disciples. You won't have to worry about your lives. Not life-threatening, but there will be physical pain." Chu Li sighed. "Master, you want to know more about the longevity faction, right?" "That's right." Monk Luan Ming smiled and said, "You are a person with wisdom. Why do you need to hide it? Why don't you just tell me frankly? If the Changshan sect wants to stand in the world, it needs to be open and above board. It will be difficult to achieve great things by hiding." Chu Li shook his head. "Whether or not we want to be open and above board, that's up to our leader. We can't decide." "If that's the case, are you sure you won't tell us?" Monk Luan Ming asked with a smile. Chu Li nodded. "Even if you kill us, you can't tell us." "Sigh. If that's the case, I can only fulfill your loyalty." Monk Luan Ming shook his head and sighed, gently pushing out his palm. Bam! Chu Li and Lu Jun were sent flying. Blood spurted from their mouths in the air. After Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood, he suddenly turned around and came to Lu Jun's side. He pushed him hard. "Hurry up and go." He poured all of his inner energy into Lu Jun's body. Lu Jun only felt a jolt, and then the inner force in his body surged, recovering his strength and strength. Under the activation of the sacrificial divine art, a tyrannical power burst forth, and in an instant, he turned into a shadow and disappeared into the forest. Chu Li landed on a tree with a bang and spat out blood from the corner of his mouth. He laughed out loud. "Master Luan Ming, you've been tricked." Monk Luan Ming was not in a hurry to chase after Lu Jun. It seemed like it would be the same even if he caught Chu Li. Chu Li looked at the direction where Lu Jun disappeared, shook his head, and sighed. "I didn't think that I could still be so hot-blooded in my old age." I really look at myself in a different light. I admire your loyalty, Monk Luan Ming said slowly. I won't ask too much about the longevity sect. Chuli smiled. There's no point in asking. I've just joined the longevity sect, but our leader will definitely destroy the reincarnation temple to avenge me. I'd like to see what your leader is capable of. Monk Lin Ming raised his palm again and lightly clapped. Bam! A white jade-like palm suddenly appeared in front of Chu Li, blocking the attack. Then, Chu Li only felt the light and shadow in front of him distort. He was most familiar with this feeling. It was the appearance of breaking through space. Monk Luan Ming frowned as he looked at Song Jifan, who flashed in front of him. When Song Jifan was about to completely disappear, he lightly clapped his palm. Bam! Song Jifan trembled, and then disappeared without a trace. Monk Luan Ming quickly tried to sense his own palm energy, but it disappeared without a trace. He could not sense this palm energy at all. He then tried to sense the palm energy on Chu Li and Lu Jun's body, and found that it had also disappeared. His expression turned solemn. He knew that he had met a strong opponent. To be able to instantly erase his palm energy, this was not easy. Among the grandmasters, if Chu Li could do it, but this young man who just appeared could also do it. This was shocking. It seemed that this was the leader of the longevity sect. He was really a young talent. Another Chu Li. Thinking about this, he felt a headache. One Chu Li had already caused chaos in the world. If another one came, who knew what kind of storm would happen? Chu Li and Lu Jun were brought back to the thatched cottage by Song Jifan. Chu Li felt Song Jifan's inner energy flowing into him. It was a strange force that was in between reality and illusion. It seemed to be abnormally pure and solid, but at the same time, it was illusory and did not exist. If he carefully felt it, he would feel weak. After this inner energy entered his body, it quickly went one round behind him, feeling his internal organs clearly. It went through his meridians and dantian, not leaving a single place. It was obvious that he was taking the opportunity to find out his actual situation. After the scripture of life and death was improved, he had completely mastered the power of life and death. His body was completely the body of 100 years old. Other martial arts were hidden in the void by the scripture of life and death and did not appear on his body. Chu Li deliberately let Song Jifan find out about him. This way, he could completely gain his trust and have the opportunity to stay by his side and find out about his actual situation. He was suddenly shocked. After Song Jifan's inner energy carefully went one round in his body, he conveniently erased Monk Luan Ming's palm energy. The enlightened master's palm energy could not be erased by ordinary inner energy. Song Jifan's inner energy was indeed strange. Lu Jun showed an embarrassed smile. Leader, we have embarrassed ourselves. Meeting an enlightened master. There is nothing embarrassing about losing, Song Jifan said lightly. It is not easy to live. Yes, Lu Jun looked at Chu Li. This Bailey Na is really a good friend. Chu Li forced a smile. I didn't expect an enlightened master to be so powerful. He looked like he was shocked. Lu Jun said, an enlightened master is originally not on the same level as a grandmaster. But we have our leader. We are not afraid of any enlightened master. You're courting death if you think that way. You should behave yourself when you see an enlightened master. Song Jifan shook his head. Chu Li saw that he did not look like he was injured. He took a rotating wheel palm from Monk Luan Ming and was fine. This made him even more vigilant. Lu Jun scoffed. Leader, this Monk Luan Ming is too despicable. Should we take care of him first? Not now, Song Jifan said lightly. Let's do it a month later. Yes, let's take care of Chu Li first and then him. Lu Jun nodded vigorously. Chu Li said, I heard that Chu Li can defeat an enlightened master. Leader Song Jifan said, I can also defeat an enlightened master now, but it will take some effort. It will be easy to defeat Chu Li a month later. Chu Li nodded, then we must kill that Monk Luan Ming. He is too cruel. Yes, Song Jifan said, if the longevity church wants to stand firm, most of these enlightened masters will have to be killed. Chu Li was stunned and quickly asked, Killing enlightened masters is not a big deal, right? Then what is the matter, Chu Li? Song Jifan asked. Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. After listening to Song Jifan's words, he knew that he had gained some trust. At least his efforts were not in vain. Chapter 3477. Lu Jun asked, Bishop, are you sure it's okay? Song Jifan replied calmly, Grandmaster doesn't care about masters below the enlightened master level. Chu Li sighed. Killing one enlightened master might not be a big deal, but if I kill too many, I'm afraid. This was actually Chu Li's own worry. After killing Tang Haoyan, he was worried about Grandmaster's revenge. Although he did not take revenge, he was not completely at ease. Although he was powerful, he would not ignore the threat of Grandmaster. To Grandmaster, he was as insignificant as an ant. Song Jifan said, Didn't my ancestors still ascend to heaven after killing so many? That's true. Lu Jun suddenly became excited. Bishop, you can't let your ancestor take all the glory. Song Jifan smiled slightly. Chu Li was shocked. He could feel Song Jifan's killing intent towards the celestial deities. If he obtained the heaven-killing sword and killed all the celestial deities, what would the world be like? It was really hard to imagine. Even if he had the heavenly star void insight technique, he wouldn't be able to deduce it. Every enlightened master could not predict their future through the heavenly star insight. He could not see what the world would be like without enlightened masters. Song Jifan asked, What did Huang Tianhe say? Lu Jun's face turned cold. Song Jifan knew the result by looking at his face. He shook his head. It's no wonder. The Church of the Divine Blood became one of the 8 major sects through hardships. They climbed up step by step, suddenly joining the church and becoming the Church of the Divine Blood. Everyone thinks they're giving up. They won't be satisfied. It's fine if he's not satisfied, but why did he release the news and have people assassinate us? Lu Jun sneered. He's really evil. Not only will he not be our brother, but he'll become our enemy. He can't wait to destroy us. Chu Li said, I can understand Huang Tianhe's thinking. As one of the 8 major sects, as long as they cultivate hard for a while, they can stand proudly in the world again. However, once the Longevity Church appeared, the Church of the Divine Blood became the Church of the Divine Blood. They're inferior to the other 7 sections. Who will be satisfied? Moreover, the Church of the Divine Blood has already left the Longevity Church. It's considered a betrayal. He must know how the Longevity Church treats traitors, so he might as well become an enemy and strike first. Is that so? Lu Jun frowned. If Chu Li's previous performance had not made him feel grateful, he would have retorted, How could he be so inferior after becoming a member of the Temple of the Blood God? It should be an honor to be a member of the Temple of the Blood God of the Longevity Sect. Chu Li said, Not only does he want to kill us, but he also wants to eliminate the bishop. Otherwise, Monk Luan Ming wouldn't have come. Luan Ming was his doing? Lu Jun asked. Chu Li said slowly, It'll be strange if the Qiu dynasty and the Fu dynasty have nothing to do with each other. He looked at Song Jifan. Song Jifan frowned and pondered. He really did not think that much. But after being enlightened by Chu Li, he suddenly understood that even if there were rumors spreading, an enlightened master like Monk Lin Ming would not easily make a move. They would observe for a while before making a move. There must be an inside story for him to make such a hasty move. It seemed like Bailey Na's guess was right. Lu Jun gritted his teeth and said, Cult Master, we can't spare this guy. Now is not the time, Song Jifan said. Chu Li said, Bishop, I have a different opinion. I don't know if I should say it. Let's hear it. Song Jifan looked at him with interest. Although he was confident in his own intelligence, he also knew that it was good to listen to other people's opinions. Even a fool would be right once in a blue moon. Chu Li Fis saluted and said, I think Huang Tianhe must be eliminated. He's different from others. People like Chu Li don't understand the Church of Longevity, so we can take it slow even if it's difficult to deal with. Huang Tianhe is different. He understands the Church of Longevity better than others. His destructive power is 100 times stronger than Chu Li's. Yes, Lu Jun quickly nodded and said, I also think that he must be eliminated immediately. Song Ji-fan seemed to be deep in thought. He was moved by Chu Li's words. Chu Li said, actually, killing Huang Tianhe has a magical effect. Once Huang Tianhe is dead, the others will be able to see the situation clearly and won't oppose to returning to the Church of Longevity. Yes, Lu Jun smiled and said, they will obediently return to the Church of Longevity. Song Ji-fan shook his head and said, they may also be more disloyal. Chu Li said, when I went to deliver the letter this time, I saw Huang Tianhe's residence. It was empty and quiet. There was almost no one around. He lived alone. From this, I can infer that he doesn't trust his subordinates, and everyone keeps a respectful distance from him. If such a person becomes the church leader, people will naturally respect him. However, once he falls into the mundane world, he will lose his dignity, and it will lead to disloyalty and disloyalty. Oh, Song Ji-fan was surprised. Lu Jun quickly nodded. That's true. It's a huge palace. He lives alone, and it's eerie and scary. However, I didn't think that much. Old Bai is still the best, he said as he gave a thumbs up and sighed. He saw this too, but did not think of it. Chu Li chuckled and said, I'm just speculating. It might not be accurate. That makes sense, Song Ji-fan said slowly. If that's the case, all right then, I'll go. Chu Li fist saluted. Bishop is wise. Lu Jun said, Bishop, let's go and help too. You guys stay here first. Song Ji-fan said, I'll be back soon. Then be careful, Bishop. Lu Jun nodded. After Song Ji-fan nodded, his figure flashed and slowly disappeared. Chu Li sighed and said, I don't know if Bishop can successfully kill him. No matter how powerful Huang Tianhe is, he won't be able to escape from Bishop. Lu Jun scoffed. He's dead meat. Chu Li nodded slowly. There was still a flaw in his method of sowing discord. He wanted to see if Song Ji-fan could discover it. If Song Ji-fan did not wrongly accuse Huang Tianhe, then he would be a strong enemy. If Huang Tianhe was killed, then there was nothing to worry about. He only needed to obtain the sacrificial divine power. Lu Jun stretched his back and said with a smile, Old Bai, thank you very much. Chu Li shook his head. I'm doing this for myself. If you die, I won't have any hope of entering the church. If you live, I have a lot of hope. Haha, you're telling the truth. Lu Jun laughed heartily. I'll remember this favor and help you. Chu Li said, I want to learn the sacrificial divine power. It's most useful now. Without the sacrificial divine power, it'll be hard to make a great contribution. Lu Jun shook his head. What you should learn now is the ageless longevity technique. Cultivating the sacrificial divine power is suicide. Your body won't be able to withstand the backlash. I prefer the sacrificial divine power. Chu Li smiled. Can I learn the complete sacrificial divine power? Lu Jun frowned. Do you really want to learn the sacrificial divine power? Chu Li said, I'll learn it first. I won't use it unless I have to risk my life. It'll save my life. Lu Jun stared at him for a while and sighed. All right, since you want to learn it, I'll ask Bishop for you. Chu Li fist saluted and smiled. Thank you. What are you thanking me for? I owe you my life. Lu Jun said, although the sacrificial divine power is powerful, it's nothing in the church. Chapter 3479. Huang Tianhe was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. He gritted his teeth, but did not attack with his left palm. He knew that it would be useless. However, Chu Li was curious about his trump card and whether he could turn the tables around. After a while, Huang Tianhe's hair had turned gray. It was as if he was standing in the middle of the night with a layer of frost on his hair. Leader Huang, it's not too late to regret it. If you don't agree, don't blame me for being ruthless. Song Ji-fan looked at him as if he was looking at a dead man. There was no emotion in his eyes. I will never agree to it. Huang Tianhe gritted his teeth. His voice was trembling as if it was very difficult for him to speak. He slowly said, It's a great irony that an evil technique like the art of longevity exists in this world. You won't have a good ending. You don't have to worry about that. Think about yourself first. Song Jifan said coldly. Huang Tianhe sneered. Do you really think you can kill me? Are you going to activate the enlightened ground? Song Jifan said. Then I'd like to see how powerful the Church of the Divine Blood's enlightened ground is and how the enlightened masters can save you. There's no need for the enlightened ground. You know that our ancestors are not stupid. Huang Tianhe sneered. Not stupid, but stupid. Song Jifan sneered. How dare you leave the headquarters? It's not a big deal to be ambitious. What's scary is having ambition but no ability. Only stupidity. That's incurable. Huang Tianhe laughed. Do you really think you can do whatever you want? Our ancestors have been guarding against you. They knew that this day would come, so they created a secret technique to restrain the art of longevity. As soon as he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. His originally relaxed face became taut again, and his gray and defeated complexion became rosy again. His face was as smooth and delicate as a baby's, and there was even a hint of tenderness. In addition, his black and shiny hair had returned, and he looked 50 years younger than before the fight. You! Song Jifan's expression changed, and he shouted, The sun-devouring nine-headed dragon. Huang Tianhe laughed. That's right. You know about the sun-devouring nine-headed dragon. How does it feel? Ha! Damn it. Song Jifan was furious. His eyes were like torches. How dare you cultivate the sun-devouring nine-headed dragon? Why wouldn't I dare? Huang Tianhe laughed out loud. The Church of the Divine Blood is not considered a righteous sect. In the end, it's all your fault. If it weren't for your threat, the ancestors and I wouldn't have practiced this. All of you deserve to die. Song Jifan gritted his teeth and snorted. Huang Tianhe smiled and said, The one who will die today is you. As he spoke, Song Jifan aged rapidly, as if he had suddenly aged 30 years. There was a strand of white hair in his hair. Although it was not obvious, it did not escape Chu Li's omniscient mirror. He could clearly see that more than 10 strands of hair had turned white. When Huang Tianhe saw him like this, he laughed and said, What goes around comes around. Song Jifan, you didn't expect this, did you? Your headquarters has always been high and mighty, looking down on the Divine Blood Church. You thought that we were just one of your halls that could not withstand a single blow, right? I underestimated you. Song Jifan said coldly. He was a little annoyed. He knew that he should not underestimate the heroes of the world, but he was still defeated. He had been a little careless this time. Even though he had circled around twice and knew that there was no ambush, he still did not expect that the Divine Blood Church had been working hard to deal with him for generations. Huang Tianhe said, As long as I kill you, the Longevity Church will be finished, right? You still want to destroy the Longevity Church? Song Jifan frowned. Huang Tianhe said proudly, The Longevity Church wants to take the Divine Blood Church as one of its halls. If you die, why can't I take the Longevity Church as one of the halls of the Divine Blood Church? Let's call it the Longevity Hall. That's a good name, haha. Chuli could see the ecstasy in his heart. The Longevity Church's divine arts and antique studies were all rare and powerful. Any one of them was better than any martial arts study in the world. If he could take over the Longevity Church, the Divine Blood Church would definitely become the world's #1 sect and replace Fairy Mountain. All he had to do was kill Zhou Dunley and become an enlightened master. He thought about it in his heart and could not stop smiling. Song Jifan said coldly, Then I'll fulfill your wish. At that moment, wrinkles could be seen on his face. His eyes suddenly shot out 2 beams of golden light. Then his body trembled and there seemed to be a crisp pop sound coming from his body. Huang Tianhe was instantly sent flying and spat out an arrow of blood. He stared at Song Jifan in disbelief. Then, with a bang, he was torn into pieces and turned into minced meat that scattered in all directions. Song Jifan could not avoid Huang Tianhe's arrow of blood. His face and clothes were instantly dyed red. Bang! Song Jifan also spat out an arrow of blood. It was obvious that he was injured. Huang Tianhe cultivated the bloody garment divine power. His blood was different from that of ordinary people. It was a powerful weapon. The power of that attack was extremely shocking. It was a blow that he used all his strength before he died. Song Jifan suddenly disappeared. Chu Li stood at the foot of the mountain with his eyes wide open. He was still fearful of Song Jifan's attack. That attack was really shocking. It seemed like he had used the sacrificial divine power. Huang Tian's attack was also very shocking. It had seriously injured Song Jifan. Chu Li's heart skipped a beat. This was a rare opportunity. He could take the opportunity to kill Song Jifan and end it all. Just as he was about to chase after him, he suddenly stopped. His face was instantly covered with a layer of frost, as if it was frozen. He suddenly disappeared from where he was and appeared in a cave the next moment. It was a huge cave. The entrance of the cave was unusually hidden. It was shrouded in a formation, and almost no one could enter. Inside the cave was a pool that was 3 meters long and wide. The pool was red, as if it was boiling with fresh blood. In the middle of the pool, there was a white lotus that floated along with the surging blood. Chu Li's all-knowing scripture was activated. He could smell the faint fragrance of the lotus and the strong, fishy smell of the pool. He immediately understood that this was real blood. If it was real blood, he would not be angry. If it was the blood of a wild beast, it would not be a big deal. It was said that the bloody garment divine power was cultivated using the blood of wild beasts. The stronger the beast, the stronger the blood, and the faster the cultivation of the bloody garment divine power. This was known to the other 7 major sects and many masters. The Church of the Divine Blood did not hide it from them. What made Chu Li angry was that he saw a few chubby babies being brought into the cave. 6 old men each carried a baby into the cave. These boys could not move because their acupoints were sealed. They looked at the old men carrying them innocently, thinking that they were playing a game with them. They were smiling and did not know fear. 4 old men sat cross-legged on both sides of the blood pool. Each of them took a side and quietly looked at the blood in the pool. Chu Li knew from their minds that they were waiting for the moment of noon. At noon, the babies would be beheaded and their blood would be poured into the blood pool to cultivate the sun-devouring 9-headed dragon's secret technique. The sun-devouring 9-headed dragon's secret technique was powerful and could not be tolerated by the world. It was a forbidden technique, but it was also a secret technique unique to the blood guards of the Church of the Divine Blood. In fact, they were even more spirited and powerful than normal people. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. This blood pool was indeed mysterious. It could actually restore their vitality and prevent them from dying. Bang, bang. This time, he used the Heavenly King Palm, which was extremely hard and ferocious. He slapped the 2 of them into the stone wall, and they were stuck there motionlessly. Then, a few more blades of energy shot into their eyes and mouths, and they couldn't be more dead. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief. He turned his head away from them and looked at the motionless boys on the ground. He scratched his head. How should he deal with these babies? He could only bring them back to the public house. Just as he made up his mind, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard. Then, a group of people rushed in, and all of them were grandmasters. "Who are you?" A middle-aged man shouted. "This is the Church of the Divine Blood's forbidden area. Anyone who trespasses will be killed without mercy." Chu Li glared at them coldly and scanned through their minds. They actually knew that these 10 old men used the babies to cultivate. His murderous intent suddenly surged. Without saying anything more, he swung his hand. Blades of energy shot out, and they were no different from real blades. Kill! Not only did his move not scare the people away, but it also angered them. Their blood rushed to their heads, and they rushed forward without any regard for their lives. Chu Li was as hard as iron, and his murderous intent was like a flame. His figure was faintly discernible, like an illusory shadow. 56 grandmasters could not even touch the corner of his clothes, and they were easily killed by him. 1 blade of energy killed 1 person. In the blink of an eye, all 56 grandmasters were slaughtered by him. Their blood dyed the cave red, and it was not inferior to the blood pool. Suddenly, he frowned. He felt a huge force surging toward him, and it instantly enveloped the entire Church of the Divine Blood. Chu Li was very familiar with this force. It was an enlightened master. He took a deep breath. He did not know which enlightened master had arrived, but it seemed that he had to stay alert. Although he would not be killed for the sake of his master, no one could say for sure. If it was Tang Su, he would definitely not let go of the opportunity to kill him. However, shadows separated from the corpses. They were their souls, including Huang Tianhe's soul in the basilica. These souls were floating in the air. Even without the omniscient mirror, they could be seen with the naked eye. The disciples of the Church of the Divine Blood heard the movement and came out of their houses to look up at the sky. A chain of palaces appeared in the sky. It was even more magnificent than the palace they were in. It was majestic and imposing like a celestial palace. These continuous palaces floated in the air, and they were faintly discernible. Huang Tianhe and the others floated to the front of the palaces and looked around. Then, dozens of figures floated out of the palaces. The disciples of the Church of the Divine Blood knelt on the ground and paid their respects to the deceased seniors and heroes. Suddenly, Chu Li's expression froze. He made eye contact with a figure in the palace. It was as if they had broken through the obstruction of the cave and seen each other directly. This person was only middle-aged. His slightly purple face was square and handsome. Huang Tianhe came in front of him and knelt on the ground. His face was full of shame, as if he was asking for forgiveness. The purple-faced middle-aged man stared at Chu Li and suddenly said a few words loudly. Everyone in front of the palace knelt on the ground and paid their respects to the sky. Then, they knelt on the ground and remained motionless. Chu Li felt that something was wrong. If he could take away 6 baby boys at once, he would disappear immediately. The sky suddenly lit up and a light door appeared faintly. Then, a figure floated out and turned into a ray of light towards the mountain gate of the Church of the Divine Blood. Chu Li clearly saw it fall into the blood pool in the cave. The blood pool suddenly surged violently. The fragrance of the lotus became stronger and filled the entire cave. Chu Li frowned as he looked at the figure standing up in the blood pool. The hair all over his body stood up. He took off his white robe and threw it to cover the 6 baby boys. In an instant, the baby boys were wrapped in it and disappeared together. The next moment, he appeared in a forest outside Chongming town. This forest was within a formation. Others could not see it, and it could isolate his aura. As soon as he put the baby boys down, they were all unconscious. They did not know the danger and did not know that they had gone through a life-and-death situation. They slept soundly. Chu Li had just stood up when his hair stood up again. He suddenly disappeared in a flash. Bang! A palm stained with blood landed on his back. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground head first. He was barely breathing. A bright red figure appeared in the air. His whole body was stained with blood. His skin could not be seen clearly. Only the outline of his facial features could be seen. He looked down at Chu Li and then lightly patted Chu Li's back with his palm. Chu Li bounced on the ground and spat out a few pieces of flesh. He was motionless and silent. The bright red figure nodded in satisfaction. He stomped his feet and suddenly turned into a red light that shot into the sky. He entered the light door and disappeared. The light door then slowly disappeared as if it had never appeared. Chu Li lay motionless on the ground. Time passed slowly. From morning to evening, Chu Li slowly woke up. His face was as pale as paper and his eyes were bright. Chapter 34:81. The sun was setting and the twilight was like fog. The sound of chanting came from the courtyard. Li Meng was sitting cross-legged under the glories while tree and chanting. As soon as Chu Li appeared, he suddenly fell to the ground with a thud. Li Meng looked at him with her eyes wide open. Chu Li said angrily, "Hurry up and help me up." Li Meng quickly went forward. Even when Chu Li fell, he protected the 6 boys with his body so they did not fall. Li Meng first took the boys and looked at Chu Li curiously. Shuai had already appeared and helped Chu Li up. "Master, what happened?" Chu Li shook his head. "Don't talk about it. Take care of them and save them from somewhere else." "Yes." Shuai nodded and suppressed her curiosity. Master, have you taken the spirit pills? Chu Li shook his head. I need to cultivate in isolation. Find some people to put on a show with Bailey Na and injure him. Okay. Shui nodded and did not ask any more questions. She turned around and left with the boys. Li Ming's eyes widened and asked curiously, Why did you get so many babies? Did you kidnap them? Chu Li asked coldly, Are you done today? 100 more times. Li Ming scoffed. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. You've improved. Continue. Okay. Li Ming gritted his teeth and returned to the cattail hassock in front of the glorious tree. He glared at him and continued chanting. Chu Li returned to his house. He sat on the bed and quickly became old, rapidly aging. In the end, he turned into a decrepit old man. His vitality was like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. Just as it was about to be extinguished, it suddenly bloomed and gradually became younger. He wanted to use the life and death scripture to heal his injuries. This was the fastest way to heal. It was like dying once and being reborn. All the old injuries were gone, and he was as good as new. He turned from an old man to a baby, and then from a baby to his current age. He opened his eyes. His eyes were bright and bright, illuminating the dark house. Sigh. He sighed and shook his head with a frown. The palm force of these two palms dispersed but did not vanish. It was like strands of thin threads drifting around his body, corroding his flesh and blood. The speed was not fast, but it was getting heavier and heavier. His life and death scripture could not destroy these strange palm forces. Chu Li had been trying to guess where this person came from. Could he really be from the Grandmaster's boundary? He found it hard to believe. Could this be the descent of a deity into the mortal world? The appearance of the Church of the Divine Blood's enlightened master's field allowed the souls of the dead Grandmasters to remain. Moreover, the prayers of these souls resulted in the Deva descending to kill him. Was this not a violation of the heavenly rules? He gritted his teeth. If his injuries continued to worsen, he wouldn't be able to survive for more than 3 days. He suddenly disappeared from where he was, and the next moment, he appeared on Goddess Attraction Mountain. When it came to the injury of a celestial being, the only person he could look for was his master, Zhou Dunley. He traveled between the realm beyond heaven and must know the inside story. After he rang the copper bell, Dong Jianxin hurried over. The night on Immortal Attraction Mountain was as bright as day. A bright moon seemed to be hanging in the sky above the palace. It was extremely close, and the moonlight was like rich milk sprinkling down, illuminating the entire Immortal Attraction Mountain. Junior brother, what's wrong now? Do you want an alarm, master? Dong Jianxin looked serious. Chu Li shook his head. Dong Jianxin's expression changed. You're injured? Chu Li nodded. A little injury. Stop talking nonsense. Would a little injury alarm master? Dong Jianxin scoffed. What's going on? Let's wait for master to come, Chu Li said. Dong Jianxin nodded and did not force Chu Li. He knew that the matter was not simple. Now that his junior brother's cultivation level had reached such a level, it was rare to be able to injure him like this. Even if Tang Su personally attacked him, it would not be like this. The only possibility was that several enlightened masters had besieged him. In the sound of the dragon's roar, Chu Li looked up. The golden dragon seemed to be carrying the moon. The golden light was a little dimmer under the moonlight, adding a bit of mystery and majesty. Zhou Dunley fluttered out. Master! Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. He was getting weaker, and his face was covered with a layer of green gas. It seemed that he would die at any time. Although his voice was loud, it revealed a bit of weakness. At first glance, it was obvious that it was not appropriate. Zhou Dunley frowned and looked at him, his white eyebrows knitted tighter and tighter. Master, is junior brother's injury serious? Dong Jianxin asked. Zhou Dunley stepped into the hall and sat in the main seat. The two came to sit in front of him and stared at him. He stared at Chu Li a few more times and sighed. The 5 decay of heavens is incurable. Master, what do you mean? Dong Jianxin was more nervous than if he was injured himself. This should be caused by a celestial. How could you provoke a celestial? Zhou Dunley asked with a frown. Chu Li told him everything that had happened. Zhou Dunley's face was solemn. Dong Jinshin clenched his fist and slammed the table. Damn it! The Church of the Divine Blood had an enlightened master named Qin Shang. Zhou Dunley sighed. Now that he is famous in the Outland, I didn't expect him to commit such a crime. He's going to suffer. What's suffering? Dong Jinshin asked. Zhou Dunley said, a celestial descended and injured someone. Both are serious crimes. He will probably be sent to the Azura world to fight hard. It's hard to say if he can come back alive. He's really looking for death. What about Junior Brother's injury? Dong Jinshin asked. Zhou Dunley pondered for a while and said slowly, there's only one way, and that's to become an enlightened master. Truly, now that things have come to this, I will go to heaven first. The position of Goddess Attraction Mountain's Hill Master will be handed over to you. You can also be an enlightened master. Don't think about cultivating to become a god. Chu Li said, Master has no way? Dong Jinshin nodded vigorously. Yes, Master can return to the mountain. Master is an isolated cultivation. He won't come out for at least 100 years. Zhou Dunley shook his head. Is there no other way? Chu Li frowned. As far as I know, the 5 decay of heavens can't be used in this realm. Zhou Dunley said, even if I do it, it's useless. Only by becoming an enlightened master can the 5 decay of heavens be washed away. Master, let me think of a way. Chu Li said. Zhou Dunley said, the dragon taming technique is useless. Don't think about it. Chu Li said, what if the white dragon helps? Zhou Dunley shook his head. Chu Li smiled. I won't be satisfied if I don't try. So I forget it. Go a try. Zhou Dunley said, become an enlightened master at the critical moment. Yes, thank you, master. Chu Li fist saluted. Zhou Dunley said, your luck is really bad. The reason why the 8 major sects are not destroyed is because of the protection of the Deva. You've offended the Church of the Divine Blood. Be careful next time. Chu Li nodded, fist saluted, and disappeared in a flash. Master. Dong Jinshin looked at Zhou Dunley worriedly. Zhou Dunley said, I'll pass the position of Hill Master to Chu Li. What do you think? Of course I'll pass it to Junior Brother. Dong Jinshin said, I'm relieved. I finally don't have to carry this heavy burden. You. Zhou Dunley smiled and shook his head. He sighed. Your junior brother won't be able to survive this. Qin Shang, huh? Chapter 3482. Chu Li appeared in the Valley of Ten Despair. The white dragon and the spirit-devouring turtle were in the ice pool of the 100,000 hills. The valley was unusually quiet. Chu Li laid on the grass, bathed in the moonlight, and sighed. He really couldn't accept it, so he sat cross-legged and entered the state of stillness once again. He circulated the life and death scripture, wanting to use the life and death scripture to dispel this strange palm force. His body kept changing from a young man to an old man, from an old man to an infant, and then to a young man again. It was useless after several attempts, and his injuries were still worsening. He became weaker and weaker. He looked up at the moon in the middle, and a day and night had passed. He suddenly gritted his teeth and slammed his palm on his chest, severing his heart meridian, and died instantly. Darkness shrouded him, and he sank completely. Then a ray of light rose, and the life and death scripture appeared in the void of his mind. The line of life and death appeared, and he stepped over it, slowly waking up. When he opened his eyes, the sky was full of stars, and Sun Mingyue in a snow-white dress sat in front of him. Chu Li opened his mouth, but he had nothing to say, and could only smile. Sun Mingyue raised her finger in front of her red lips, and then reached out to pull him up. Chu Li almost fell, and his body was weak, even worse than before. If this continued, he might not be able to hold on for another day. Sun Mingyue helped him into the cave, pushed open the wall, and entered the cave, and saw a man and a woman sitting cross-legged together. The two tacitly took off their clothes and quickly became one, activating the supreme diamond scripture. At first, Chu Li felt as if he was being pricked by needles. Sun Mingyue's supreme diamond scripture inner energy was exceptionally sharp, and his meridian was constantly suffering from pain, being pricked badly and faintly swollen. However, he could not care less, because he realized that the Supreme Diamond Scripture was effective against the strange palm energy. After the Supreme Diamond Scripture inner energy became one, its power increased greatly, not only in quantity, but also in purity and power, which was far from what a single person could compare to. The inner energy flowed endlessly in his body, constantly expanding his meridian and strengthening his organs. His body became stronger, and, along with the pain, the feeling of weakness gradually faded. When the two stopped, they realized that the 7 chakras had doubled in size and became more solid. The Supreme Diamond Scripture inner energy stored in it was purer and more powerful, and it felt as heavy as Mercury swaying. Chuli realized that the strange palm energy had already dispersed. The Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture could actually destroy the 5 decrepit heavens technique. According to the omniscient mirror, the bishop of the longevity sect wants to challenge you. Chuli smiled. Do you know where the Changshan sect came from? Sun Mingwei asked. Chuli nodded slowly. Are we going to work together? Sun Mingwei asked. Chuli smiled and shook his head. In the past, I was no match for him, but it's different now. It's only at this stage that I've mastered the Supreme Titanium Scripture. Sun Mingwei smiled. That's good. I'll go back first. Chuli nodded. Sun Mingwei leaped into the sky and floated up like a cloud, quickly disappearing. Chuli sat cross-legged on the grass, closed his eyes, and entered the void of his mind. The Supreme Diamond in the void of his mind had changed. It was originally standing in the void, but now it was sitting cross-legged with a woman on its lap. It was Sun Mingwei. The two of them were hugging each other, and they were connected as one. From now on, the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture no longer required 2 people to cultivate as one. It could be cultivated alone, and the power of the inner energy would be no different from working together. Their abilities would increase by several folds. With that, the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture's inner energy would be endless, and there was no need to cherish it. When he stepped into a new realm, 2 incantations suddenly appeared in his mind. They were the Vajra Palm and the Indestructible Vajra. Both were the cultivation methods of the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture, and they were unusually exquisite. He was completely immersed in the Indestructible Vajra and the Vajra Palm, and did not know the passage of time. The Indestructible Vajra and the Sentient Menace were similar, and Chuli suspected that the Sentient Menace was created based on the Indestructible Vajra. The Sentient Menace was far less exquisite than the Indestructible Vajra, but at the same time, the Sentient Menace was much simpler than the Indestructible Vajra. It was much easier to learn. Without enough inner energy from the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture, one could not cultivate it even with the Indestructible Vajra. The Life and Death Scripture absorbed spiritual energy from the Outland and poured it directly into the meridians and chakras. It circulated along the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture and quickly turned into inner energy. Then, the inner energy of the Supreme Diamond Supreme Scripture circulated along the Indestructible Vajra, and his body was rapidly strengthened. He trained for another day until his stomach rumbled. Then, he appeared in the public house's courtyard with a brand new look. It was noon. Li Meng was chanting under the glorious tree. Her expression was solemn, and she had the bearing of a Buddhist monk. Chuli was very satisfied. Xueling floated over and looked at Chuli. Her cold face bloomed into a bright smile. Master, are you all right? Chuli nodded. I'm fine. Did the madam send a letter? Yes. I told the madam that you were in isolated cultivation. That's good. I'll go back immediately. Chuli nodded and suddenly disappeared. He appeared at the foot of the mountain and used his light body technique to appear in front of the thatched cottage. He saw Song Jifan and Lu Jun cultivating. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.